theory has to have a priority.
Capitalism and artificial intelligence are the same thing.
The dimension of the future has disappeared.
There is actually no representation anymore.
There is no final resolution to contradiction.
Militant proletarian snake handling over abysses never gets much wilder than this.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to The Dangerous Maybe. Merry Christmas. Nance, how's it going?
It goes, man. I'm really warm. I'm wearing a festive Christmas sweater. I have festive reindeer antlers on. I'm gonna have to take this shit off because it's hot. It's 78 degrees outside here in Phoenix.
Yep.
On what is it, December 22nd?
It's 57 here in KC, and it should be,
Yeah.
20 degrees or something.
Yeah, but we're getting in the fucking holiday spirit anyway. I was thinking, actually, talked to Sean the other day, and talking about
Very
the
fun
effective
conversation.
decadence. Oh yeah, it was a great conversation, dude. It went all over the place, but I think we touched on some good stuff. But we broached his piece on Bataille on Substack and the effective decadence. And I was thinking about that today because I generally don't get festive. I don't really care about holidays and all that stuff. And I think that goes back to being a kid. It was like, I never got very much. And so I just developed this like, oh, I'm better. I don't need Christmas, whatever, like this protective fucking reaction to it. But I was thinking about it today, and like the Puritans didn't celebrate Christmas, and like there's like very, very Puritan Protestant like branches of Christianity that don't do holidays at all because they're all about the work ethic, and they're like, no, work. Don't shut down. Don't revel. Don't be merry. Work. To have fun and to revel is a disgrace to God, and that's how you let the devil inside your heart and all that. And I don't want to be that guy. I think we should revel and be merry. So even though I tend to be a humbug, I'm getting in the Christmas spirit to be effectively decadent for once.
No better way than with reindeer antlers.
Yeah.
Look, I got me my little Kahlua Christmas mug.
Kahlua. Oh, that's perfect, dude. I got to take this off. This is so
All right.
hot. Hold on. Oh, while we're at it, though.
It's kind of like Angry Joe. Angry Joe, if you watch his movie reviews, he'll dress up in a costume, and about 5 minutes in, he's like, yeah, fuck this. He takes it off.
But we are going to do a reading of a short piece or a short few pieces.
Really, it's
from
the first three sections of chapter 3 of Baudrillard's The System of Objects. So the long wait is over. It's been years. Everyone has wanted me to start teaching Baudrillard, and 2026 is going to be the year when it really happens. And so we're kicking this off with a special Christmas episode. Maybe I should have led with that, but fuck it. We're not we're not doing a take two. So this is the first annual Christmas special, and maybe the last, because as far as I can tell, most philosophers didn't have much to say about Christmas. I made a post on social media asking all our theory junkie friends, hey, what are some good essays about Christmas written by philosophers? And nobody responded. Then Ian Thompson just responded, crickets.
Yeah, that's
so,
funny, dude. That's funny.
There has to be. Don't you think Adorno wrote about Christmas somewhere?
Yeah, I'm sure.
One of those guys, Frankfurt School guys, had to write something about it. So next year we'll find something to talk about. I have to imagine tucked away in Heidegger, there's something on Christmas and winter solstice and being that we could talk about.
He might have written about like Saturnalia or something. Like he might have been like, let's connect to our like ancient fucking roots.
So, we've got a year to figure it out. But we're starting off this tradition with the one and only John Baudrillard. And for those of you who have, been familiar with Nance and I for years now, you know that Baudrillard's one of our key thinkers. And yet we haven't talked that much about him over the years. And that was kind of my fault because I plan on doing some original stuff with him in my next book, the one after the Nick Land book, that will be released in the first quarter of 2026, guys. So I know you have no reason to believe us when we say it's coming back out because it's taken so long, but take that up with life, not us, because we wanted it out a long time ago, but life just kept throwing curveballs and obstacles, but going to happen. But after that, the next big book is going to be much more centered around Baudrillard, along with the rest of the gang. Nick Land, Slavoj Žižek, Mark Fisher, etc. So it's time to start teaching some Baudrillard. And there is this great section here where he's talking about advertising and how advertising functions in consumer society, the relation between advertising and the commodity system of objects. And in the second section we're going to read, it's just called The Logic of Father Christmas, which could just be called The Logic of Santa Claus. And so we were thinking about, we're like, this is the one to go with for the first annual Christmas special here. So we each have our copies of System of Objects. I think our pages are different because this is the original copy, the bigger, which is great because it has the big margins. I wish all of my notes were in this one and not the later reprint because it's been much nicer to notate this one. But nevertheless, yeah, let's go. Chapter 3. Here.
Is it on 164 in that print?
Gonna be. Try not find this. What page is it on in yours?
In my book, it's 178. In my PDF, it's 164.
I found it. So, okay, guys, come on. This is actually.
It's like, what is it? Like the chapters and sections, like it's section D, chapter 3.
Yeah, so it's in section D, which is the socio-ideological system of objects and their consumption. And then in that big section, it's chapter 3, advertising. And so, we're going to read 3 subsections of this chapter. First being discourse on objects and discourse as object. Then the logic of Father Christmas. And then, did I skip one? I skipped one. Discourse on objects and discourse as object, advertising in the indicative and in the imperative, and finally, the logic of Father Christmas. So, all right, finally.
Yeah.
Boy, we sure prepped for this, or at least you did. I didn't.
Well, hey, man.
Nice to know where
it's
the
Christmas.
page. But whatever, guys.
It's Christmas.
We'll get through.
Happy Christmas, guys. Don't be so hard on us. We're here to spread joy and cheer.
We're old grumpy old men. So
yeah, which is
I think
a fucking fantastic
Are you Jack
movie, by the
Lemmon?
way.
I'm Walter Matthau.
Yeah,
Something like that,
dude. I think it would we would take turns being either or.
Nobody seems to remember those movies, but I do.
Those were good. Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very heartwarming.
I mean, a lot. My grandma loved them because she was such a fan of The Odd Couple. And so she, to pay me back for all the movies I dragged her to, because she was usually my ride, the movie theater. She's like, "You're going to see Grumpy Old Men with me." I'm like, all
Hell
right.
yeah.
But I don't know. I have nostalgia for it.
Yeah, dude.
So, well, Nance, do you want to kick us off here? This first section is one paragraph.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Discourse on objects and discourse as object. Any analysis of the system of objects must ultimately imply an analysis of discourse about objects. That is to say, an analysis of promotional messages comprising image and discourse. For advertising is not simply an adjunct to the system of objects. It cannot be detached therefrom, nor can it be restricted to its proper function. There is no such thing as advertising strictly confined to the supplying of information. Indeed, advertising is now an irremovable aspect of the system of objects precisely by virtue of its disproportionateness. This lack of proportion is the functional apotheosis of the system. Advertising in its entirety constitutes a useless and unnecessary universe. It is pure connotation. It contributes nothing to production or to the direct practical application of things, yet it plays an integral part in the system of objects, not merely because it relates to consumption, but also because it becomes an object to be consumed, because it itself becomes an object to be consumed. A clear distinction must be drawn in connection with advertising's dual status as a discourse on the object and as an object in its own right. It is a useless, unnecessary discourse that it comes to be consumable as a cultural object. What achieves autonomy and fulfillment through advertising is thus the whole system that I have been describing at the level of objects, the entire apparatus of personalization and imposed differentiation, of proliferation of the inessential and subordination of technical requirements to the requirements of production and consumption, of dysfunctionality and secondary functionality. Since its function is almost entirely secondary, and since both image and discourse play largely allegorical roles in it, advertising supplies us with the ideal object and casts a particularly revealing light upon the system of objects. And since, like all heavily connoted systems, it is self-referential, we may safely rely on advertising to tell us what it is that we consume through objects.
Okay, so a lot is condensed in that paragraph. I guess the core things to start with. Let's zoom out. Somebody's coming. They're listening to us talk about this. They have no familiarity with the system of objects and little to no familiarity with Baudrillard. Well, I guess we luck out a bit because this is Baudrillard's first book, and it's before he develops all of these big concepts that he would become associated with: simulation, symbolic exchange, the virtual, all of these kind of things. And yet they're there in larval form early on. He's got some hazy awareness of some of this stuff. It's just not explicit or conceptually worked out. Here he is doing an analysis of how the consumer system of objects is structured and how it functions. Got to remember, this is Baudrillard in the late 60s dealing with the kind of explosive onset of post-war consumer society, where all of a sudden everyone is now expected to buy a house and to furnish that house with all kinds of commodities, and they form a system. And I can't help but see some Heidegger here, where Heidegger talks about referential totalities, where there's no such thing as a piece of equipment for him, at least not in isolation. In its everyday functionality, there's no such thing as hammers without nails, without boards. They all form a referential network or system. And for Baudrillard, he sees something similar with that when it comes to commodities. There's a default package of commodities your average suburban consumer now must have to be your average suburban consumer. So car, television set, couches, dishwasher, laundry machine, dryer, towels, forks, spoons, knives, dishes, curtains, rugs, carpet, paint in the sense of painted walls or wallpaper. All of this exploded in the post-war era. And he's trying to think about the impacts that this has had on human beings and the effects it's had on capitalism itself. So when we refer to system of objects, we're really referring to the system of default consumer commodities. And he thinks that advertising is essential here. Now, prior to the post-war consumer society, yeah, you can find ads, but they didn't have this omnipresence that happened in consumer society, in post-war consumer. And he's trying to think, like, what is the ideological? And notice that in the title of this big section, he's still using the word ideology. This is something he's going to drop later as he develops simulation theory. But early on, he's using it. And I'm kind of glad he's using it. I don't think it has to be jettisoned, even if we talk about simulation. But that's the Žižekian. So, what is the role of advertising when it comes to this new default collection of commodities that all average consumers are going to buy and consume? Well, first things first, he says you can't really tear advertising apart from these commodities. 50 years before, 1900 or 1850, was there a network of systematized advertising the way that we came to know it in post-war society? No. Because advertising as we know it, even though, of course, magazines were used, it really took hold with electronic media, television, and so you can't really strip it away from that.
And I think it's important to note, like, Edward Bernays was kind of instrumental in the reimagining of what advertising can be. And I also think it's worth noting that in the wake of World War II, like there was a demand to posit this notion that we won the war to end all wars. And like there had to be a new frontier. There had to be a new quilting point for the citizen, of the West, the modern citizen. Like there had to be a new frontier. There had to be a new something to conquer, a new purpose. And that became consumption. That became like, yeah, not only are you a good American, not only are you a good factory worker and a good family husband, father, whatever, you're also accomplishing consumption and you are getting all these gizmos and gadgets galore.
And what is this early concept that he introduced? I'll let you riff on this. Baudrillard's the philosopher who realized, hey, Marx got this thing right with the commodity, that it's use value and exchange value, but he didn't see post-war consumer society. He didn't see consumption become consumerism. And a third type of value is now at the heart of the commodity alongside use value and exchange value. Third kind of value, sign value. Nance, what is sign value?
Sign value is with exchange value. Exchange value does this little trick, and it makes you think like, oh, this much money is worth about however much time it would take me to accomplish this task. So my dishwasher, I have to pay however much I have to pay for it. But ultimately, the amount of utility wrapped up in that dishwasher, yeah, that's about commensurate to, you know, whatever I have to pay for it. And that, like, well, how do you get your money? You get your money through wage labor. So you're already doing, with exchange value, you're doing this operation of abstracting use and utility to consummate exchange, or commensurate exchange. And it used to be like people would buy a dishwasher for the utility wrapped up in the dishwasher. And then along comes poly, and like multiple things kind of all, it's this confluence of like the post-war stuff and social and technical innovation and all that. But there's this new quality of the commodity, and it's like it demonstrates, oh, this is fancy, this is good, this is like this dishwasher, being that it's, I don't know the brands at the time, but this Whirlpool is better than this GE.
Maytag
Becky got a GE. Yeah. I have a Maytag, and Maytag is high quality, and the Johnsons, they have GE, and GE's all lowbrow stuff. That's what the no good nicks get, and we get Maytag in this household.
How
and
about
so there becomes
a Mercedes versus a Hyundai?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What
Today,
does the commodity say about you? This is how we're told to cultivate our identities.
It's no longer just the utility or the imagined utility, because exchange value already does a fetish and covers up utility. But then sign value comes along and covers up exchange value. So we're willing to pay exorbitant prices for a brand because
a brand is an
brand
identity.
says something about me. I am the type of person who owns even me, dude. Like, I drive a Volvo. Like, I am free. Like, I love Volvo. I grew up on Chevrolet and Ford, and then I got into fucking imports, and then I found myself falling in love with Volvos like 20 years ago, and I've been driving Volvos ever since. And so there is a part of me, and I try to be aware of it and have some critical distance, but I still, when it's time to buy a car, I'm gonna go buy a fucking Volvo, because there's some part of me that knows there is a truth, and this truth is I am the type of person who owns a Volvo. And that's what brands start to do, and that's what sign value is. Sign value, we're no longer playing with perverted ideas of utility and paying in the exchange value. We're also paying for these commodities with sign value, because they say something about. I do the same thing with sunglasses. I buy Ray-Bans because when I was a kid, we were poor as shit, and so I wanted to be the type of person that could have nice things. Like, you want nice things because nice things say something about you. Like,
and that's the message of the consumer society. If you don't have cool commodities, you're a loser. That's what it puts in our fucking head from day one. And all of the pop culture we consume at this unconscious level is beaming this message at us. And so even if it depicts people who aren't in big mansions, they still will be depicted as having a cool system of objects. Nowhere is this clear than the Big Bang Theory. I'm sorry, Sheldon and Leonard's apartment. It's small. It's a living room, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. But it comes off looking so fucking cool that everybody, even if you don't like the show, it's like, I'd love to have that apartment. Why? Because there's such meticulous detail put in to the arrangement, configuration, design of all of their specific, the Batman cookie jar and all of this stuff. And to give a space that type of vibe, that type of atmosphere, ambiance is huge for Baudrillard and system of objects and society. So you have to have the right aesthetic combinations of colors, of positionality within a space. And, you know, interior design was this big thing for our grandparents. Not so much for us because we can't afford to do it, but it was a big deal. And Sheldon and Leonard's apartment, small as it is, humble as it is has that shine, that consumer shine of having interior design. And
if you notice, it's not just utilitarian. It is decadent. It is, they have bits and baubles, they have tchotchkes, they have all the shit, because it's not, if it were just exchange value, they would want to display utility. They would want to have this, like a Jetsons aesthetic, like the retro futuristic aesthetic, where everything was minimalist and very utilitarian, but also gregarious. But things like the Big Bang Theory and what we see today, and all the streamers, and even look at my shelf, I got books and Lego and fucking gadgets behind me. Like, yeah,
look at my
like
Arrow video bag I got, right? Like,
we want overabundance, that we want to display. I am the type of person, not only can I have all these things, but I can have all these things sitting on a shelf behind me. I don't need to use them. I'm not concerned with utility and necessary utility. I have a surplus of sign value that I've collected, so therefore I have some intrinsic value.
And it's worth noting, this is indicative of lower class and middle class people. We're the ones who want to signify, have the sign value of abundance.
Kitsch.
Rich people, super rich people, do this minimalist thing because it's an even higher sign value. I have so much sign value in this social arrangement, I don't have to signify it.
I don't have to peacock. Whereas we're over here,
Leo walking down the street looking like a fucking bum.
Adam Sandler, Jack Nicholson, like all these multimillionaires look like fucking shit
They're
houses.
going for this homeless look.
Yeah, dude. And then we're out here peacocking and strutting.
Brian. And I mean, is that not, I mean, whether it's the form of us with books or movies that, physical media, or whether it's rappers with, especially 90s rappers, with the cars and the jewelry and everything. Those of us who don't have monetary excess are the ones who are desperate to show it off.
Yeah.
And
kitsch. Kitsch is you go to Vegas, you go into a fancy hotel and it has all the Baroque woodwork on the walls and shit. But it's not real woodwork. It's all like silicone appliques on probably concrete walls, but it's a simulation of this decadence and this opulence. But then, if you go, I don't know, I've never hung out with a rich person, but I've seen rich people on TV, and it is this very clean Scandinavian design, minimalist aesthetic. And it's like Ex Machina. The house that looks like the Frank Lloyd Wright house that's falling water, like it's just a rectangle, and it's got like a window and a granite countertop, and it's just all clean lines. It's all very minimalistic. Whereas we do the kitsch thing.
I'm trying to find lyrics if I can.
Who? Jay-Z?
How do you know?
99 Problems?
Well, no, it's not 99 Problems, but you guessed the right rapper. Okay, so this is from the story of OJ. Killer beat. I love that beat. He has a line, and look, Jay is one of the most capitalistic philosophers. I mean, he is a street philosopher in a sense.
For sure.
Most capitalistic rappers. And so obviously a lot of people can dislike him because of that. But I think he also, because he affirms capitalist competition the way he does, he is a businessman. And so when you hear him say shit, given his lyrical ability, sometimes he'll say something that's such a well-worded thought that it's incredibly quotable. He's one of the guys I always, even when I'm writing theory, I find that his words pop out a lot. Oddly enough, so do Kanye's earlier Kanye.
Yeah.
Kanye, the first 3 albums or so. But it's weird how sometimes the ones who really have these quotable lines where they really punch in an idea very clearly, they're the ones that always come to mind when I'm writing. And so on on Story of OJ, he says, y'all on the Instagram, holding money to your ear, like holding a stack of money like to your ear or something. Right? He goes, there's a disconnect. We don't call that money over here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the point of this? The point is, okay, you've made enough money to have a stack and hold it to your ear like it's a phone, like you're showing it off. Dude, we have so much money. Like, that's silly to us to try to do that, to try to show off that way. We don't call that money over here because you've got money you're showing off. We have wealth.
Yeah.
And that's somebody, that's the difference from somebody who's rich and somebody who's wealthy. And he's speaking from this position of wealth. Like, dude, you're a kid. You're a juvenile.
Yeah.
When it comes to money. And I think that's how so many of these rich Hollywood guys and all of them, if we won the lottery, some part of us would have a very difficult time not flaunting some of it.
Bitch, I'd have a Lamborghini. I'd have Gucci snakeskin fucking. I'd paint my walls in Gucci, man.
And
I would be like Riff Raff. Like, the Florida
or
rapper
James
Riff Raff,
Franco in Spring Breaker.
Yeah, dude. I'd be the albino alligator himself. And I couldn't help it, dude. Yeah, me too, dude. Oh, shit.
But that's because of, our position. And so we would want to flaunt in that way, where people of real wealth just shake their heads
invest
at it.
that shit.
And
put
so
that shit in a high yield account.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's this, but this is this difference in how sign value works at the different levels of consumer society. And yeah, you look at Kim Kardashian's house. It's when I see what her house looks like, sometimes I'm flipping through and I'll stop on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And they do this minimalist, like all the rooms are like off-white or beige, like a light beige, and there's nothing in them. And I'm sitting there going, who the fuck wants to? It's such a cold, minimalist, anti-ambiance. And again, it's their mindset is we can do this. It's a sign of, and you see that even in American Psycho, where he's sitting there freaking out over the most imperceptible differences. And that's what Baudrillard's about, marginal differences in commodities. So these small differences help make up our sense of identity in consumer society. Nowhere is this clearer than in American Psycho, where he's looking at this other guy's business card. And to me, I can't even see a fucking difference. And he's sitting there in cold sweat because these tiny imperceptible differences that he's able to perceive think this card just makes this other guy so much better than him. And it like causes them to have a fucking mini existential crisis.
I did work at a honest to God printing press for a while when I was younger. And so I got well acquainted with different stocks of paper and card stock and stuff like that. And so that scene to me like speaks to me, because like I do understand the subtle differences of different stocks of paper, but only because I had to labor in a fucking like mechanical printing press that was like just crazy. We used toxic ink. It was crazy. The paper dust caught on fire. It was,
so in other words, hell.
Yeah, I worked in hell, but I came to appreciate that scene because I can draw on my experience of like, oh, I know the differences that he's talking about, but they are very marginal. And it's very much, it's also like we see it with like Labubus. Like Labubus are the hot commodity now. And it's just like Beanie Babies. And it's just like the Funko Pop bobblehead guys.
But they're lemurs.
Yeah. I think there's something interesting.
Okay. You and Sean were talking about South Park on your new episode. South Park has been on a fucking roll the last couple seasons, and they had a Labubu episode. Did you catch that one?
I did, dude.
Yeah,
I did. Where he like summoned the demon. But I own a few Labubus now. I don't own. My kids own a few Labubus, but I purchased recently for Christmas some Labubus, and they all look the same to me. I can't tell the differences between them, and like I'm literally looking at and I'm holding them. Well, why is this one different from this one? Like, what's the point? Why is this one? Why are you guys going ape shit for this one? And you don't really care about this one, and it's these marginal differences that are. I mean, they're
And part
different,
of it
but
is. Oh no, go sorry.
it's just it's the same thing because I don't care about it. I'm not attuned to it. I'm not plugged into what matters about this Labubu. But because this sign value is such a powerful thing, these minimal differences jump out and matter to the people who are hooked on this circuit of the Labubu.
And is this not true in all of the different various commodity regions? Whether it's look at how I am with my 4K special editions of movies, where I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I'm actually disappointed. There's too much noise in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4K. The Blu-ray edition had a better saturation and less noise." And I'm sitting there going, "Why the fuck do I care about this for this movie that was a childhood movie that I was obsessed with when I was 8 years old, and yet here I am, 43 years old, and I'm sitting there going, I just fucking can't with this 4K. There's too much noise. They should have denoised
Send
it.
this back to the chef.
Yeah, like Arrow Video, you failed me on this one. I love you,
Yeah.
but I need a denoised edition. That goddamn movie, even on VHS, was too noisy to begin with, and I get it. It was shot that way, fine, but you have the tech to denoise it, and when you put it in 4K and there's that much noise, it becomes like a strobe light effect.
Oh, it's
annoying. It's almost like, okay, so TV noise, but I always call TV noise TV snow. It's almost like there's a layer of TV snow over the fucking movie because the high definition is so high that it accentuates the noise. It's more noise than before, and it's like, nah, get that shit the fuck out of here. You fucked like and Ghostbusters is also on 4K like this. But again, look at this niche thing I'm perceiving something. The average person who doesn't do this and isn't into like 4K special, they can't perceive this shit. They wouldn't care. And this is something I do. Another example of something that I don't do, and I'm pretty sure you don't do, but is a thing. It's like the people with wine. Oh, I can taste a hint of, and I'm sitting there going, man, nobody. But they're so into it. It's like the
it all
motherfucker.
Tastes like funky grape juice.
Paul Giamatti
Like that's all it
in
tastes.
what is it? Sideways? Is that what it's? What's that movie called? I drawn a blank.
I don't know.
Sideways.
I just know all wine tastes. It just tastes like funky grape juice.
Yeah, Sideways. Have you ever seen Sideways? Okay, it's a movie with him and the guy who plays Sandman in Spider-Man 3. What's his name?
Oh, the guy from Wings.
Hayden, what's something? I always forget his name. Anyway, they're just buddies who are taking a vacation because the one guy's getting married and this is like their last hoorah. And Paul Giamatti's character is just absolutely obsessed with wine. And what's his preferred? Is it Pinot Grigio? Is his whole thing? And they're about to go on a date with these two girls they met. And his buddy's like, all right, now, if they want to drink Merlot, we're getting Merlot. No, I am not. I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot. And like this kind of niche hyper identification with certain things, like this is the hallmark of consumer society.
Yeah.
And, I just don't, do you imagine some dude in the 1800s having some reaction to the thought of having to drink some beer like
No.
that? It's not an assault on his existential, his identity or something.
That's the thing. Like his identity was not tied to consumption and the commodity in this way. Like his identity was tied to other things that were more concrete and hadn't been so far abstracted away. And like that's the thing. That's what capital has managed to do. It threw out utility in favor of exchange, and then it kind of really just broke exchange in favor of sign. And what does the commodity say about you as the type of person who consumes this commodity? And how does this very specific, very particular commodity, how does that validate your identity? And I think, I don't know. These ideas about like the validation, the edification and gratification and all that, I think they're key to what's going on, especially when there's this super egoic commandment to go forth and be merry, accumulate, and you can prove your existence to the cosmic adjudicator by the quality of your consumption. But the quality has been replaced with quantity, and that's the trick that capital played on us, but we weren't looking. We didn't notice. So we're confusing quality for quantity.
Okay, just small corrective. It's Pinot Noir, I guess, his preferred wine. But wait, what?
I don't know what either of those is.
You need.
I guess
Sideways is a
white
good movie
wine
to
and
watch.
black wine?
No, I think
Pinot Noir,
Pinot is well.
Pinot Grigio is what, white, and Pinot Noir would be black. Is that like a red versus a white wine? I don't know, dude. Wine sucks. Wine tastes like funky grape juice, man. I don't drink.
It is a
in
red
the first
wine.
place. Yeah. But even when I did drink, I mean I did drink different types of beers, and I did drink whiskey. I was one of those assholes who was all like, "Oh, give me a rye, give me a bourbon, give me a like." I was into different types of whiskey, but who gives a fuck, dude?
But it's a thing. Like, look, of course, like because it plays off of. Yeah, you can easily prefer, if you get really into wine, of course you can have your preferences. If you get into different whiskeys, sure. But this idea of building a sense of, like, the whole thing with him, people who drink Merlot are like less than. I don't think he would want to say that, but the way he acts and behaves is like they're unsophisticated peasants. I am the distinguished, and this is Bourdieu as well, distinction, right?
Yep.
Well, Baudrillard's calling sign value. Bourdieu's going to call distinction.
I think it's an innovation on distinction. I do know that getting white girl wasted, that's a thing. And I do know that girls like Riesling. And I guess Riesling it's like a dessert wine. I don't know. I have bought my fair share of Riesling in the past, and it has paid off, but but I don't do that shit anymore. But yeah, the type of girls I was buying Riesling for were not fancy.
And so that's the thing. It's like it is this weird. So we come to associate certain groups with certain commodities. This is nowhere more present than in the high school comedy, right? So you have the jocks, you have the goth kids,
Breakfast Club.
Exactly. And what defines each one of them? It's the fucking clothes they're wearing. The way they style their hair. It's their consumer identity. And so what they end up doing at the end of the film, what I like, is that it's a movie that champions subjectivity over identity. They realize that all of their particular identities are these kind of social persona. They walk around, and what defines all of them are fundamental lacks and they end up realizing that these fundamental lacks are rooted in a universal lack, the inability to ever be fully identical with your interpolated identity, what you think you're supposed to be. And it's on the basis of this inability to truly just be reducible to your social identity that they bond and forge a friendship on the basis of lack. Again, the negativity, however you want to talk about it, subjectivity, but that's kind of the what I think is the Lacanian Žižekian message of Breakfast Club. And they realize that, this particular shit that we're doing is bullshit. There's no reason for us not to be able to be friends and associate because honestly, these stupid identities blind us to these more fundamental. Thank you, Judd Neslin.
Did the pose.
Won't you forget about
Forget
me?
about me.
Don't you?
Dude, like I said, when I was watching Home Alone 1 and 2 the other day, I noticed a weird John Hughes vibe in Home Alone 1. And maybe it's because they're in Chicago, and maybe Chicago just makes me think.
Do you know John Hughes wrote them?
Did he write part 2 as well?
He wrote both of them. Chris Columbus directed them.
Yeah.
But Chris Columbus, here's another fun fact. Chris Columbus directed Adventures in Babysitting, which has big Home Alone vibes.
Huh.
So you put the John Hughes script with the guy who directed Adventures in Babysitting, you get Home Alone. Yeah.
But the thing I noticed is Home Alone 1 has John Hughes vibes. And it's not throughout, but there's a few moments where you pick up on the John Hughes. But then Home Alone
Chicago
2,
suburbs.
Yeah, Home Alone 2, it felt like a 90s movie. It didn't feel like an 80s movie. Like it didn't feel like John Hughes. Interesting total diversion, but also
here's the thing. Like Home Alone 2 I think works as a sequel. It's if you're going to capitalize off of the success of Home Alone, I mean that's about as good as you're going to get. Okay, but taking it out of the suburban Chicago ambiance, right? It does give it a slightly different feel. And isn't that the problem with that episode from Stranger Things that nobody likes in season 2, where 11 goes to Chicago, leaves Hawkins, and you're like, this just does not feel like the show anymore. And really because the show is Hawkins. Yeah. I'm sorry, like John Hughes movies, they are Shermer, Illinois. It's fictional, but remember Jay and Silent Bob and Dogma? They're trying to get there, and they're like, then we get there, that fucking town doesn't even fucking exist.
Doesn't exist. So yeah, I think it's appropriate that we're diverting onto this pop culture track, because talking about advertising and pop culture.
Yeah, let's bring it back to.
Yeah. So I think if we read this next section, we can actually tie it right into how has advertising come to supplant the pop culture object.
Right. And so, because look, Nance and I were talking about this before filming. I've got a take on advertising that I think is updated Baudrillard, or it's more Baudrillardian than Baudrillard was here. And I definitely want to get into that. But we've said a lot. Like all of that was kind of an intro. Let's go back real quick and look at some of this paragraph, because I would like to unpack it at more of like a sentence by sentence. So any analysis of the system of objects must ultimately imply an analysis of discourse about objects. That is to say, an analysis of promotional messages comprising image and discourse. For advertising is not simply an adjunct to the system of objects. It cannot be detached therefrom, nor can it be restricted to its proper function. There is no such thing as advertising strictly confined to the supplying of information. Okay. So everybody thinks that at this surface level, advertising is there to inform you about a product. No, it's not. That is incidental. From Hannibal. That's not its real point. Now, the other thing is, in this new context, post-war consumer society, discourse about objects is not something that you separate from the commodity system. His point is, discourse about objects is baked into them, which means commodities are now signs. You cannot, if you try to de-sign them or de-discourse them, you're missing the fucking object of analysis. You're missing what a consumer object is. And what do? All we do is sit around and talk about, look what they've done to Star Wars. Yep. I don't like Avatar because blah, blah, blah. And this is, I'm not making fun of anybody. This is what Nance and I have been doing. So yeah, this is inseparable now from commodities. Do you think somebody 150 years ago was truly sitting around having nuanced, impassioned conversations about their fucking curtains or their rugs or whatever? Now, somebody can say, well, Star Wars isn't a rug. Yeah, fair enough. Because somebody could say, well, they were talking about stories from the Bible or folklore or whatever. Yeah, fair enough. Because that's kind of what movies are to us. They are our stories, but we can't detach them from. Think about how much is tied up with brand and Disney and.
Yeah, you can't detach discourse about these myths, to call them myths or cultural objects or artifacts, from the act of consumption, because the only pathway to them is consumerism. So in the past, and it's interesting that even now, talking about the Bible and talking about, is it Acts 9 or Acts 11 or this and that, like that does more to validate your position as an avid Protestant Christian or whatever. Like I am the type of person who goes by Acts 9. I am the type of person who goes by Acts 11. Whereas in the past, like it was like a genuine, earnest, like
trying to understand the Word of God,
with the metaphysical. Yeah. And now it has become this consumer type identity,
well, trust me.
And you're looking for the external validation of it.
There's a way. Baptists consume being Baptists, and Pentecostals consume being Pentecostals.
Right.
And they don't understand that commodity logic has bled into religion, which would surprise nobody who's read Marx. But,
right.
So, okay, his point so far is we have to understand that discourse about objects is baked into consumer society, but we also have to understand that this type of discourse about commodities is an object of consumption itself. We enjoy and consume talking about commodities. And this was just not, this is not something people in the past did, was sit around and go over what use Fight Club. What dining set defines me as a person?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, indeed, advertising is now an irremovable aspect of the system of objects, precisely by virtue of its disproportionateness. The lack of proportion is the functional apotheosis of the system. Advertising in its entirety constitutes a useless and unnecessary universe. That's a great line by itself. In Todd McGowan's terms, he would say that advertising here functioned as a form of pure excess, or was tapped into this, that the very excess of advertising was something essential to it, which is to say its excess is what made it function ideologically the way that it did. It is the fact that this society is constantly beaming advertising to us. It's not the content of the messages that matter. It's the very form. This is the McLuhanite influence here, right? It's the very fact that the very structure of the society is beaming messages about things that are supposed to make our lives better. It ends up ideologically saying something about the society. You live in a society that cares more about your needs and desires than any society that has ever lived. This society is here to service you and to help you customize the very life that you would love to live. See, I even have to say it in a bullshit advertising voice because that's what the whisper is. It's the whisper of the form, the very form of advertising that gets its hooks in us, not specific ads. And no one understands this better than Don Draper, Mad Men. And that's why I think Mad Men, if it has anything to teach us, I mean, I know Todd McGowan, he's always going on about how much he loves Mad Men. And I think it's precisely because of how it gets at this logic of the fantasies that a great, ad guy can figure out about humanity. Like how do you sell people on a commodity? Well, you don't sell them a commodity, you sell them a fantasy.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the original guys who were doing advertising, who were influenced by Freud and psychoanalysis.
Yep.
And so, but Baudrillard's point is that it's the excess of advertising as a medium that gives it its power.
Well, yeah, back when you would maybe see an advertisement on a billboard when you go into town, or you go downtown or whatever, or you might catch an advertisement in the back of a magazine, or maybe you get the Montgomery Ward catalog or the Sears catalog, mail order stuff, and there's good utilitarian information in all these things, and then maybe there's a few full page ads in the back for, Dr. Carmichael's snake oil or whatever. But like that, like old style advertisement wasn't piped into your brain all day, every day from every direction. Like old timey advertisement was relegated to places where commerce was being done. But then with the advent of not just the newspapers, but the radio and the television, and we started bringing the idea of commerce into our homes. It wasn't just about keeping up with the news and staying connected and being quilted into your nation or whatever. It started to become more and more about commerce and how are you going to spend your money. Look at this post-war bloom. Everyone is rich. The freedom dividend. How are you going to spend all that money? And it was just another way to do upward redistribution of wealth. And now we're all broken. Now we're all like, commercials make up like 30% of all the shit that's in my brain. And I'm okay with it. But
Let's see.
Demolition Man, the oldies station. It's just jingles.
So, I'm adding some stuff to this one chapter in the book, and I go into that, actually. The Demolition Man example of that, one of my favorites. So, but no, when he says advertising in its entirety constitutes a useless and unnecessary universe, it doesn't fill any default human biological need or imperative. It exists not to actually do anything useful or meaningful for the human. It only exists for capital. He doesn't say that, but that's what's in the background here. And I mean, I got to quote Fight Club. Why do guys like you and I know what a duvet is? Is this essential to our survival in the hunter-gatherer sense? No. And he's like, because consumers, right. We're byproducts of a lifestyle obsession, right? And that whole speech gets at this. This thing like, we're trained to need to buy shit and obsess over shit we don't really need. That isn't essential to our survival. And it promises us something that it can't deliver. But we stay hooked on it. It promises us absolute fullness, completion, happiness with a capital H. That if we just get that last commodity in the commodity system, boom, everything will be all right. And of course, that's bullshit. It's ideological bullshit. And nonetheless, that fantasy keeps so many people going, or at least it used to. And so, yeah. And I think it's still operative by and large. So, but it's important to realize that in pursuing this and letting this define what we're trying to achieve in our lives, we're just serving capital. That's it. What does it have to do with us and humans? Nothing. So, it is pure connotation. Another thing with sign value. So sign value functions as a connotative discourse, which is to say, like free-floating, hazy flashes of meaning, but it's unclear. So if somebody defines themselves through Abercrombie and Fitch, it's like fuzzy signifiers like all-American, preppy. Yeah. And then, but like, it's not like denotative in the sense of like how an explicit, well-structured sentence is. It's just connotation. And so the Che Guevara t-shirt, rebel, anti-American, and you ask it like, okay, what is it? What's it actually signifying about me? Its power is that it is hazy.
Yeah.
It's plays quick and easy, and it's difficult to pin down. But that's what gives it its functionality, is that it doesn't have to be denotative. It just has to give you some
It's just
vague
vibes,
sense
man.
of being a rebel. You know?
Vibes-based revolution right there, dude.
There it is. It contributes nothing to production or to the direct practical application of things. No, advertising doesn't do anything at the level of the factory. And it doesn't really do anything with how we go about practically using objects in our day-to-day life. Yet it plays an integral part in the system of objects, not merely because it relates to consumption, but also because it itself becomes an object to be consumed. That's the point. We want to consume the discourse about objects. We want to define ourselves through a position. I'm sorry, that's what all these guys on YouTube do. What's it, Geeks and Gamers or whatever that, what's that channel that just does nothing but bitches about what Disney has done to Star Wars and blah, blah,
dude,
blah. And these channels,
there's so many of them. Yeah.
I think it's Geeks and Gamers. But yeah, they're defining themselves through the discourse about commodities, which, you know, especially pop culture, like movies and stuff like that. And so a lot of people have made a lot of money off of YouTube by just playing up their position in this discourse about objects. A clear distinction must be drawn in connection with advertising dual status as a discourse on the object and as an object in its own right. Again, it's a discourse about objects, but that discourse about objects becomes its own object, its own source of consumer identity. It is as a useless, unnecessary discourse that it comes to be consumable as a cultural object. And here's the other thing. The very fact that it's, you know, useless and unnecessary, it doesn't go into it here, but I mean, these are words we can talk about in reference to jouissance. Jouissance is this excess that goes against the useful, the necessary, the practical. Those are all aligned to pleasure principle. But jouissance gets its hooks into the excess, the useless, you know. And so this is why it's also a source of jouissance, is precisely because it is useless. Which is to say, it's not something that's helping to reproduce ourselves at the level of what's in our best self-interest, what's going to bring about our best health quality. It's something that derails us in its uselessness, and that's the libidinal appeal of it. What achieves autonomy and fulfillment through advertising is thus the whole system that I have been describing at the level of objects. Capitalism. He doesn't use the word there, but the entire apparatus of personalization and imposed differentiation. You are defining your personhood, your personalization through these objects, and you are differing yourself from other human beings of higher or lower status through the consumption of these goods or commodities. That's differentiation. Of proliferation of the inessential and subordination of technical requirements to the requirements of production and consumption. Is to say, subordinating what would actually like increase our lives, you know, at the infrastructural level, opposed to meeting the demands of capital. Of dysfunctionality and secondary functionality. Since its function is almost entirely secondary, and since both image and discourse play largely allegorical roles in it, advertising supplies us with the ideal object and casts a particularly revealing light upon the system of objects. And since, like all heavily connoted systems, it is self-referential, we may safely rely on advertising to tell us what it is that we consume through objects. Okay. Now this next section, titled Advertising in the Indicative and in the Imperative, will add some more to this.
Yeah. Advertising sets itself the task of supplying information about particular products and promoting their sale. In principle, this objective function is still its fundamental purpose. the supplying of information has nevertheless given way to persuasion, even to what Vance Packard calls hidden persuasion, the aim of which is a completely managed consumption. The supposed threat this poses of a totalitarian conditioning of man and his needs has provoked great alarm. Studies have shown, however, that advertising's pervasive power is not as great as has been supposed. A saturation point is, in fact, soon reached. Competing messages tend to cancel each other out, and many claims fail to convince on account of their sheer excessiveness. Moreover, injunctions and exhortations give rise to all kinds of counter-motivations and resistances, whether rational or irrational. Among them, the refusal of passivity, the desire not to be taken over, negative reactions to hyperbole, to repetition, and so on. In short, the discourse of advertising is just as likely to dissuade as to persuade, and consumers, though not entirely immune, appear to exercise a good deal of discretion when it comes to the advertising message.
Okay. What jumps out at you in this paragraph? What do you think should be highlighted?
I think the fact that it reaches a point, studies have shown that it kind of reaches a point where it becomes useless, I think is important to kind of highlight. Because again, he's talking about like the excess, the uselessness, the non-function of advertising is the point. Like you could even look at these studies and say, well, they're wasting money. Or you can look at YouTube videos and say, well, if everybody skips the ads, aren't the advertisers wasting their money on buying ad space on YouTube videos? And everybody has ad blockers and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but also that's the point of it. Like the point of advertising is that it is this ubiquitous discourse. Like it has replaced social being. Like no longer are we a subject of the world or a citizen of the world, or no longer are we, a subject of our own goals and hopes and dreams and our own like personal passion projects and stuff like that. We are all subjects of this excessive, seemingly useless advertising. Like again, it's just doubling down on that point that the medium is the message. It's not that Taco Bell is going to convince you to get up off the couch and go buy Taco Bell. It's the fact that Taco Bell is somewhere deep down. It's buried in your brain because like that's the water that you swim in. And so like somewhere inside me, there's a little Taco Bell homunculus, and somewhere inside me, there's a little Jack in the Box homunculus, and they get in a fight. Whenever I'm hungry and I decide I want fast food, these two little homunculi get in a fight. And that's the point of it. It's to get me to become the type of subject who just consumes, not only without even thinking about it, but who thinks like, oh, I must consume. Like that is the point of advertising. It's not to spend ad dollars to get you to buy a certain product.
Doesn't it create in us, instill in us a sense that Taco Bell was especially made for you and for me?
Yes. Yes.
Like Taco Bell's there for you, Nance. That's why it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's that sense of all of this is for you. That's what it's truly doing. That's why they spend the money on these useless ads.
Oh, dude.
Is to create it's similar to Heideggerian being almost, where it is the meaning of all meaning, the context of all context, which is what this social space does at the most basic fundamental level is say, this is here to cater to you. How can you hate your social space? How can you go against it if at the deepest level of your being, you're convinced that it's there to service your desire? But
well, and we validate ourselves when we choose to refrain from a certain type of consumption at a certain time in a given context. And like that actually becomes like that's an industry in its own right. Like the industry of saying
The consumption
no,
of
don't
anti-consumption.
consume. Yeah, don't consume. Go out and plant a garden and you know, breed chickens or whatever. Like this anti-consumption becomes its own type of consumption. And I'm not talking shit on people who do self-sustenance. I have friends that do it, and I think it's awesome if you do it for the right reasons. But if you do it as this, if you take up a position of anti-consumption and it's only in reference to consumption and that's it, that becomes your new consumption. In the same way that
Exactly.
Baptists consume their Baptistism and Presbyterians consume Presbyterianism. Yeah. So yeah, like it really, it's not about spending X amount of dollars on advertisements to convince you to buy X commodity. It's about like, this is the new social reality for us all. So a rising tide raises all ships. Like from the advertiser's perspective, that's true. They're not spending all these dollars specifically to get you to buy specific products. They're all spending all these dollars to create this new horizon of possibilities for us all as consumers, as subjects to their advertising.
Yeah.
It's conditioning right here. The supposed threat this poses of a totalitarian conditioning of man. No, that is what happened. It's not the case that we're like Pavlov dogs where we hear a jingle and then we go buy that product. It's the case that we, you know, when we're laying in bed at night, we're thinking about commodities. We're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to write a poem tomorrow, or I'm going to sing a beautiful song, or I'm going to enjoy nature. We're thinking about the commodities that we're going to eventually purchase.
It makes me think of that scene in Dinner with Andre, where it's this movie about these two guys who are just sitting at a dinner table in a
shit.
restaurant. Really great
Fucking
movie.
weird. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the most explicitly philosophical movies, because it's just these two guys having dinner, talking about deep philosophical issues, right? At one point, one of the famous stretches of the film is when one of them starts talking about how living in a modern consumer American city is this kind of totalitarian system of control, and it's this invisible type of control, right? And I've seen Žižek express dislike for this, because he's sitting there going, don't ever confuse that type of shit for what actually happened in totalitarian regimes. Like, don't conflate this kind of soft form of persuasion with totalitarian tyranny. That's a fair point. I also think there's a fair point that Dinner with Andre is making as well. And I think Baudrillard would side with the Dinner at Andre point. And I think he does it right here. So, look, this is a moment in Baudrillard that goes against something that Nick Land said to us. So, this influence of Vance Packard, this book that he wrote had a big influence. I think it's just called Hidden Persuaders. But it had a big influence on Baudrillard. It's one of these books that nobody reads, but should go back and read because it's really great. And hidden persuasion is this thing. We're not aware of how our desire is being manipulated through advertising. Okay. And that's what makes a great ad man is they know how to persuade us implicitly at the level of fantasy. Right. And Baudrillard is saying, you know, the Chomsky book, Manufacturing Consent. What they're getting at here is manufacturing desire.
Yeah.
And so Nick Land said to us one time, like, capitalism sells us cheeseburgers, not because it wants to sell us cheeseburgers, but because we want cheeseburgers.
Yep.
Okay. But he seems to not understand this Baudrillardian point of it. Yeah, but we don't just want washing machines. We don't just want iPhones. We don't just want 4K copies of Back to the Future. Like, something has to get into our desire that shapes it. Like, these are not things humans just spontaneously desire. So my question to you is one side here right and one side wrong, or are both right in some way and there needs to be a synthesis of the two somehow? What do you think of this?
No, I mean, I think, yes, capitalism sells us cheeseburgers because we want cheeseburgers because we've been turned into creatures that can only want cheeseburgers. And I think that would be the synthesis of these two positions.
But he misses that, correct?
Yeah. He misses, like, he thinks we're always already the type of cheeseburger or the type of creature who desires nothing more than cheeseburgers. And it's like, dude, around my house, there's probably 20 different cheeseburger joints. There's Red Robin, there's Five Guys, there's Burger King, there's Whataburger, there's Wendy's, there's McDonald's, there's Carl's Jr., there's the Habit Burger, and then there's all these. There's a
then the
fucking
local
proliferation, and there's a proliferation of hamburger shops, and it's like if all we wanted were cheeseburgers, wouldn't one or two suffice? Like, no, there has to be all these niche. You have to be a cheeseburger hipster. You have to go to the cool hip cheeseburger joint because that
where the
sign
burger's
value
$25.
Right. And it's because sign value has latched onto us in this way, and it's replaced this other thing. There is a yearning, there is a longing in us for something more than just cheeseburger, but we don't know how to express it. We've been conditioned to think, no, cheeseburger. But because there's this surplus longing, yearning for something, we come to believe maybe the fancy cheeseburger will satisfy my phantasmatic desire, as opposed to the cheap $3 cheeseburger, which I prefer. I prefer a sloppy, greasy, nasty cheeseburger. But that also says something about me as a person. I'm the type of guy who doesn't want to go to the $25 fancy cheeseburger joint. I want to be seen at the hole in the wall joint, dude.
Even if you don't want it to define you, the way you resist it's going to define you.
Yeah.
And that's the logic of this sign system. Like, it has a spot for you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, look, I think that capital does shape our desire.
Absolutely.
And if somebody wants to say, like, well, somehow humans are prone to, like, sugary snacks or salty snacks, okay, sure. But there's a whole lot of sugary and salty snacks out there. There's a whole fucking array of them. And people find the one that people, like, I'm sorry, like, people can have, like, identity battles over Snickers versus Milky Way. It's like
food YouTube, man. Have you ever seen? There are entire online communities, and I'm not just talking about the mukbang stuff because I think that's probably a fetish, but there's like entire groups of people who, like, their symbol of social being is nerds or Twizzlers or this, like, whatever new candy is popular on TikTok at the time or whatever. Like, yeah, like we are, this is the language that we're taught from birth. And because, like, we have a yearning and there is, like, we are missing something. So we're searching for that thing. And the only thing that presents itself to us is this proliferation of commodities, this multiplicity of commodities. And it takes a lot. You have to kind of get outside of it and get the critical distance to see, oh, the commodity does not define me. But most people are too busy working and they're too busy slowly dying and they can't develop that. And so, yeah, they're going to just latch on to whatever. And it's probably mostly random, like whatever tickles your fancy at a given time for whatever particular reason, like a partial object. But instead of a partial object, it's a candy or it's a Lego toy or a Labubu or whatever.
You know what? Let's just actually do let's make it about us in this sense of transparency, right? We do theory tube. Like, we're theory tubers, whether we like it or not, or like maybe we don't want it, but that's what it is. Okay. Even in theory tube, you're going to have your sign value. If people like us, it says something about them. If they prefer Daniel Tutt, if they prefer Chris Catrone, if they prefer One Dime, it's weird. Like, and all of us can have conversations, and there's still these marginal differences in attitude, disposition that certain people are going to connect with us or not connect with us on the basis of.
Yep.
And same with Tut, same with Patron, same with it, just down the line. And so much of it has to do with that. Of course, there's people who don't, their default setting when it comes to learning theory isn't that. And they skip around and check out everybody and pick up but you see this in all these online communities, whether it's foodies or theory junkies, this same logic operates in all of them. And
Yeah.
so, there's really at this point no outside to it. But it's more of understanding how it operates. And I would just say, sorry, Nick, here's what Baudrillard gets right and what you fail to miss. Capital has spent what to us would just be infinite amount of money on advertising to shape our desire to believe that the commodity is the answer to our problems. That is not something that our ancestors believed. And that is something at the very core of our desire.
Going back to my earlier statement about wanting to do effective decadence this year with Christmas, there was a point in time where the Protestant work ethic was an innovation. And there was the reason that these Puritans were so against revelry and so against celebrating Christmas, and why you have like weird sects of Christianity today that like, oh, you guys don't celebrate birthdays? You guys don't celebrate holidays? That must be weird. And it's always weird for like the Jehovah's Witnesses kids. I always felt bad for them because like people made fun of them, and I was like, well, it's not their fucking fault. But the Protestant work ethic, and that weird Puritan like work, it's because production and labor was still central to value and surplus value. And it really was about taking utility and transmuting it into exchange, but with sign value that does this weird augmentation of exchange. So it's already covering up an obscuring utility for exchange, and then sign value comes along and obscures exchange value itself, so it becomes pure excess. And that's like just like the Protestant movement had to create the Protestant work ethic, capital had to create this excess ethic.
Yeah.
So,
and that was not something, especially with it being commodity oriented, that is just not something that our ancestors had. And so it did configure our desire in its own image and likeness. And I think Baudrillard's right. I think Baudrillard is, in critique of the political economy of the sign, one of the early essays is on the production of new needs. It has to make us need new things because it creates new objects. So that has to create a new demand for them objects. And this part of this is structural. I'm sorry, you might not want to have an iPhone or a smartphone. Good luck having a fucking job at this point without having a smartphone. So even if it's not something you actually desire or actually demand, you're going to end up having to demand it out of functional necessity because this new thing has been integrated into the system. But don't say this has something to do with like some universal default human desire. It doesn't. It is manufactured by the system. So I think this idea of hidden persuasion, of how advertising reconfigures our desire at the most formal level and has it geared towards, I mean, look, in Lacanian terms, it is taking objet petit a and pinning it to the commodity form itself.
Yep.
Like the thing that will make you whole, make you complete, is somewhere in this system of objects. And all you have to do is find the last commodity to
find the right one.
Find the right one, and all things will be made whole. You will attain happiness with a capital H, and you'll live happily ever after.
It's the needle in the cosmic haystack.
Because just like objet petit a, the last commodity doesn't actually exist.
Exactly.
So it works because they both are ultimately the same phantasmatic object. It's just it's taking objet petit a as a transcendental phantasmatic object and pinning it to the commodity form. So, but again, the system did that. We didn't do that.
Right.
So the
Dude,
cheeseburger example only goes so far.
I think connecting, yeah, the OJA and the commodity, it is the same thing. I also think it's interesting that like the way they advertise new cell phones, the images, they used to show like a happy person walking through a park with upbeat music and it's bright and sunny outside and they have the new device and it does all the things and it's like this like fantasy future where it does all the things. I remember when the iPhone came out, dude, and I had like Palm Pilots before smartphones were all the rage. Like I was into nerd tech shit, and so like we had the Palm Treo and the Palm Pilot, and I was into that. But when the iPhone came out, like they marketed it so successfully because I was slavering to get an iPhone. Like I remember talking to my brother about like, dude, I can't wait till this thing comes out. And we would make jokes. We're like, I'll bet it can babysit the kids. We can go get fucked up and just leave our iPhone on the counter. Like dumb shit, but it was that fantasy vision. But now the marketing of cell phones, if you've seen any recently, it's a real zoomed in, fetishistic, voyeuristic image of the curve of like it'll just be the curve of the display, like the top bezel and the curve, and they'll zoom in and get very particular, very fetishistic.
Do you think on some level they're trying to associate it with the ideal female form?
I think they are absolutely partial objects. Absolutely is going beyond. It's crossing some kind of line. Absolutely. Like, and I think it might be implicit. Like, I don't know if any of these people are really aware of it, but they are sexualizing technology.
Well, when you're saying, look at this phone, ain't it curvy? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's weird. It's fucking weird, dude. But they
and the message is fuck this phone.
Well, and I mean, talking about where are we going to go? Men are going to go their own way so hard. And you know, women are going to be left to just start their own relationships, and everybody's just going to have test tube babies.
Just wait till the sex bot actually becomes a practical thing that guys can consume.
I think there's a lot of people that really, really want it because they like we already, and with like the car's been sexualized for my entire life. I remember seeing commercials as a young kid where the car was, you know, the curves and the lines and they'd zoom in on the headlight or, you know, the supple leather upholstery. Like it's very sexual, but now they're doing it with cell phones. And I think it's you know, they're seeing the future. We are all going to be fucking phones, essentially. They won't be in the shape of a phone. It'll be in the shape of a anthropomorphic human, but it'll be
Scarlett
your
Johansson.
Phone. Yeah.
Phone nonetheless. So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's do the next one. Pretty sure it's
Yeah.
see what it says.
Having said this, let us not be misled by the avowed aim of that message. While advertising may well fail to sell the consumer on a particular brand, Omo, Simca, or Frigidaire, it does sell them on something else, something much more fundamental to the global social order than Omo or Frigidaire. Something, indeed, for which such brand names are merely a cover.
All right, so he's alluding to the true message of advertising here, which is not to sell you on this brand or the other. There's a hidden persuader operating behind the scenes here, and that's where he.
Let's see. I think these these last two.
Read them together.
Yeah, they're shorter. I'll read them together and then. So, for which such brand names are merely a cover, just as the object's function may ultimately amount merely to the provision of a justification for the latent meanings that the object imposes, so in advertising, and all the more so inasmuch as it is the more purely connotative system, the product designated, that is, its denotation or description, tends to be merely an effective mask concealing a confused process of integration. So even though we may be getting better and better at resisting advertising in the imperative, we are at the same time becoming ever more susceptible to advertising in the indicative, that is, to its actual existence as a product to be consumed at a secondary level and as the clear expression of a culture. It is in this sense that we do indeed believe in advertising. What we consume in this way is the luxury of a society that projects itself as an agency for dispensing goods and transcends itself in a culture. We are thus taken over at one and the same time by an established agency, and by that agency's self-image.
Okay. So what he's saying is that the denotative level of the ads, which would be, hey, this is a Samsung television. It does X, Y, and Z. That's why you should buy it. That layer of explicit information does not matter. What matters is what is being connoted, the connotative, like, cloud of significations around that, or what this denotative message is indicating, the indicative. So the explicit imperative is you should buy this because of XYZ. But the indicative is your society is now fundamentally rooted around servicing you and meeting your needs and meeting your desires. And you live in a society that now caters to you in your individual preferences. And you have now been liberated from old social orders that demand you sacrifice yourself for nation or for the collective good. You are now in a social space that not only can you yourself pursue your individual wants and needs, but the society itself is organized around helping you facilitate that. How can you possibly have a problem with that? And that is the true message of it. And so I would just want to have a quick Žižekian supplement. We always talk about the superego's imperative to enjoy, right? The imperative here is not that imperative. In fact, the superegoic injunction to enjoy is the indicative here. It's what's operating in the background. Because if your society is telling you, whispering in your ear, then it's now based around you satisfying all of your desires and needs. Well, what's the quickest way to say it? Enjoy.
Yep.
It is a thumbs up to you pursuing your particular forms of enjoyment. Now, there's all kinds of problems with this superegoic injunction, but it's just important for anybody coming from it at a Žižekian perspective that the indicative here is the superegoic imperative and not the imperative of the advertising's explicit message.
Fallout, the TV show.
Did you watch the first episode of season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Very good.
But the Vault Boy logo, the guy standing back doing the thumbs up while Vault Tech, and the arc of the first season, I thought it was pretty good. I like the Fallout video games a lot. And I feel like season 1 was really good. And they kind of had like a, what was the guy, his movie star buddy, the communist. I can't remember his name, but he was one of his buddies. He was like a co-star in his movies, and he always played the bad guy. And they used to make movies in a different way. And then the one movie he's making, instead of arresting him, he shoots him in the head And Walton Goggins is like, I don't really want to shoot this guy in the head. But he's noticing that like there's a change going on. And then they go to the bar later and they're talking, and his buddy's a communist. But he basically says in one real quick line something about like the fiduciary responsibility, and he's like, Vault-Tec, like they're selling this protection for the end of the world, so they have a fiduciary responsibility to bring about the end of the world. But all their advertising for Vault-Tec, it's always Vault Boy. He's always doing the thumbs up, and it's all like 1950s. It's got that really cool aesthetic. So the imperative there is buy the product, you know, just same thing, post-war boom, buy the product.
Well, the thumbs up
consume,
is
consume.
the gesture of enjoy, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the gestural form of the superegoic enjoy.
Yeah. But I think that's good imagery. When I think about advertising, I think about Vault-Tec, because I think they nailed something there.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. No, go ahead.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna say, I don't know.
Vault-Tec nailed the imagery.
I was gonna say something before I started talking about Fallout. And it might just be, I don't know. Keep going. It'll come back.
All right. So look, here again, I'm kind of reiterating something we already touched on, but I think it's worth reiteration. So look, guys, he's trying to say, just imagine, okay, we're not literally having 40,000 ads being beamed at us in a single moment. What is, especially in the old days of TV, right? It was just a constant, a pretty steady stream of ads. So you have the show, and then you had the commercial break. And so, there were breaks between times you were literally looking at ads or not. But the flow of ads, whether it's TV commercials, whether it was radio commercials, whether it was imagistic ads in magazines, you were constantly being beamed ads. And so strip the content away. This is where it's more important to think in terms of form than in terms of content. Forget the content of each specific ad. Just the fact you live in a society that constantly floods you with ads says something at this unconscious level. And what it says is this society cares about you and is here to cater to your desires. That's the secret ideological message, because capitalism doesn't give a fuck about what you as a human want. Not really. And if it can reconfigure things technologically to the point that it doesn't need you, then it will discard of you. And this is where we get into Morlandian territory. But this is, again, one of the most important things at the level of Philosophy 101. Human beings typically think and perceive in terms of content. And one of the core philosophical moves is to start thinking in terms of form. And this is all these great thinkers do this. Kant thinks in terms of form because he's thinking about the preconscious or unconscious forms our mind imposes on sense data that gives it a cohesive, consistent type of experience, right? Freud is thinking about the forms the unconscious takes in manifesting itself in the forms of dreams, slips of the tongue, etc. Marshall McLuhan is thinking in terms of form because he's thinking about what do different media forms themselves, television, radio, internet, what do these forms as such do to our sensory apparatus, right? Hegel is thinking in terms of form because he's thinking about how does something that seems to be its own thing actually have an inner contradiction within itself? How does it relate to other things, right? Heidegger's thinking in terms of form because he wants to think of the core essential structures of human existence as such, or Dasein. Form is where philosophers camp out at. Aristotle, he basically created logic, right? More or less. And how did he do? He focused on the forms of proper thinking. So what Baudrillard's trying to do here is think of the forms of consumption, not the content, and the form of advertising in particular in this chapter. And that is what the form itself says. I care about your desire. How can you possibly be against me? And who is actually saying that behind the scenes, even behind the form of advertising itself? Capital, MCM Prime. So that I just wanted to kind of emphasize that a bit more.
I think that's the truth of the message of advertising is like this seductive with the whisper. It's the seductive whisper from capital that you can't really perceive, but it's always there, and it's seducing you and it's tranquilizing you into just consume.
Are you tired of working in them fields? Are you tired of working in that grimy factory? Well, good news. I'm here to change your life. And I've got a whole system of commodities that's going to make you the king of suburbia. And you are going to stand out and be dignified. You are going to be the shit because I care about you, babe. That's it's something like that, right? That's what he's getting.
Well, and that being like the message of advertising, and being the truth of our culture. Like we are an advertisement based culture now. I think that, and it used to be, yeah, your content was broken up by short little commercial interruptions. It's also true that product placement, like on, fucking I Love Lucy, like they placed Maytag and they placed,
because you want to consume the desire of the other. And if your ideal character is consuming a certain brand, God damn it, you want to be like them.
Yeah. So that,
tell me you don't want to go eat pizza every time you watch Ninja Turtles, or tell me you don't want to have coffee and cherry pie every time you watch Twin Peaks.
Yeah, like that's so there's the fucking commercial at the beginning of the VHS of the Ninja Turtles movies.
I know this is it's going to be Nance's commercial from henceforth is what I'm going to call it. But I love this thing too. I watch those same VHS tapes.
Dude, but it says something about me. It tells a truth about me that I can't put into words.
Phantasmatic level.
Yes. But it's like my brother and I, like this is such a core tenet. It's a core pillar of the love that we share for each other as brothers. We'll have phone conversations. We'll call each other on the phone, and sometimes we'll just talk about Ninja Turtles and pizza for 45 minutes. But what we're actually trying to talk about is like, yeah, I love you, man. I miss you. How's it going? How's the family? Work is crazy. I wish we could spend time together. But the language we're using is talking about Ninja Turtles and this specific baseball commercial.
The discourse of commodities. It is.
Exactly.
Same with everybody I care about.
Yeah. But
I even get like my best friend Ronnie. Like out of all my close friends, he's the one that I have this pro wrestling bond with. Yeah. And we know that we can always call each other and just riff about pro wrestling. And all we're doing is talking about, Monday Night Raw or SummerSlam. Oh, who's gonna be this big surprise guest at Royal Rumble? Right? But we're talking through a commodity we consume.
And it's not to diminish it or deride it. Like that's all we can do. That's the language we grew up speaking. That's the world we were born into. So it's not to say try to call someone and have an awkward, stilted conversation and express yourself in plain. No, don't. But also like be aware of the fact that this is who we are. Like the commodity advertising, this logic is in our subjectivity. It's in our brain. So going back to cheeseburgers, of course we want cheeseburgers. That's all we know how to want, Nick. But we want a world where we can want something more than fucking cheeseburgers.
Exactly.
But it's also interesting. We're living at an interesting moment because, like we said, advertisement, it is expensive for advertisers. And a lot of people don't want to buy ad space because people are going to skip the ads. And a lot of people don't want to waste what limited money they have. And so instead of buying explicit ad space, they sponsor influencers. And so influencers have become the new Lucille Ball. So, but no longer is Lucille Ball interrupted by an explicit commercial break where they say, you know,
So
we
that's
interrupt your
exactly-
program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the point that we were getting at. And so the way I describe it is, all right, I wanted to say something, but I'm going to forget. So do me a favor. Once I finish with this Baudrillardian spiel about simulation, just say the word Jehovah to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. So the way I view it is this. Here, Baudrillard, at this point, and it makes sense, at this point in consumer society, ads function just the way he described. I think he nailed it. But the question is, does advertising work on Zoomers, on Gen Z, the way that it did on baby boomers and Xers and us older, we're Zennials, something like that. We're cusp generation. But even younger, the older millennials, right? That advertising basically worked the same, I think, throughout that. With the rise of social media, something changed in it. And I don't think ads function the way they used to. But I think we need to be more Baudrillardian here than Baudrillard was early on. So Baudrillard in Simulacra and Simulation has this great, famous, influential analysis of Disneyland. And there's different ways to read it, and people will bicker over the specific thing. But the basic takeaway is that if you have a concentration of images or signs of a thing, what that fundamental concentration does is simulate that outside this concentrated space of this is the opposite of what's concentrated there. So in the Disneyland example, you can say the ideological mechanism here is there's such concentrated images of childishness and immaturity and silliness that Disneyland functions to simulate outside of its walls, that America is serious and adult and mature, when in fact all of America is childish and silly and immature. So what you could now say, if you want to go with that reading of the Disneyland example, you could apply that to ads themselves. Actual ads on YouTube that we skip, right? They're there to simulate that the rest of YouTube is not advertising.
Yep.
And that's the later Baudrillard would say that's the trick of simulation, is that it gets us to believe that everything except the ads we skip over are not ads. All of it's an ad. And so it's the omnipresence of advertising via, like what you're saying, via influencers. Now it's like so Kim Kardashian sells Skims. So on Instagram, she'll just constantly be on there talking about Skims. And it doesn't seem like you're watching a commercial. If you're invested in Kim, it just seems like you're listening to Kim talk about something she likes. It's a fucking commercial. But these changes in, like, nobody sits on YouTube and just literally watches a Chevy commercial if you can skip through it. So this is one sense where it's like, no, but what comes after, look at the fucking influencers. They all have Tucker Carlson. Have you tried this new blah, 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 blah?
The beef?
And Alex
the
Jones.
Range, yeah.
Have you tried my supplements? And like,
yeah.
They all go on to do it, but you listen to them do it. But if it's a straight up Chevy commercial, you skip it.
Also with that, like you see a lot of like lifestyle influencers. Recently in the past few years, like the neo trad thing has kind of fucking gone bonkers. It's blown up. And I think a lot of opportunistic people saw what was happening during COVID with people making sourdough and people knitting blankets and like there was like a real artsy fartsy time on the internet during COVID because a lot of people just had a bunch of free time to sit at home and post themselves doing artisan stuff on the internet. And then I think the neo-trad people took that as an opportunity to say, let's just flood the internet with neo-trad lifestyle stuff. And so you'll see women wearing denim dresses and barefoot, having braided hair and a bunch of children. I was going to say something fucked up. That always annoys me. We'll just leave it at that. I don't think, if you want to be, if that's what you really want to do with your life, go for it. But don't let someone convince you to be that type of person. Because it's whatever. Anyway, these lifestyle women, they'll be like, let's bake bread. And so they'll have new bowls and new mixing spoons and new mixing utensils, and they'll have all this new shit. And it's very, like, the production is done well, the sound quality is really well, it almost has an ASMR quality to it, and it's all very seductive, but not, because they're prim and proper. But you don't notice that you see the brand of the spatula and the mixer, and you see the brand name, you see the labels, and it like, they're not even explicitly saying, hey, buy my supplements, go to American, grass-fed beef.
It's a hidden persuader.
It's a hidden persuader. That's exactly it. And so our advertisements that we skip are Disneyland. And then we think, when we get back to the content, you think you're watching someone bake bread and talk about the virtues of being barefoot and staying in the kitchen. What's really happening is you're being psychologically conditioned to want to buy the specific brand of spatula and bowl and mixer. And it's this vampiric fucking thing.
What does Tyler say? We're the byproducts of a lifestyle obsession. You're getting your ad through your obsession with a specific type of lifestyle that's being sold to you. And it doesn't even come off like an ad. So the ad is there to obfuscate the fact that the real ad is not even what you think is an ad.
Same thing with the geeks and gamers. The product that's going on, it's all advertising. And I think to a far lesser degree, it even happens in TheoryTube, but I think with like BreadTube and stuff, it's pretty rampant, because the product being consumed is being I'm the progressive and I have all the right opinions about everything. But it also, like, it's at the level of, like,
let's get self-referential. If we're guilty of this, and the hidden persuader is buy Baudrillard's system of objects, I'll just own it. Just do it.
That's the
Please,
thing.
God, go buy it and read it. Like,
yeah, that's that.
I don't feel guilty
and I do
for this.
think the person producing whatever's happening, you can kind of break this relation with critical self-awareness and making it explicit and being like, well, we're advertising Baudrillard to you right now. So,
and how do you consume Baudrillard? Via books you buy, probably on Amazon.
That's the thing. Like, we're always trapped inside of it, but it is true that, like, the explicit ad is Disneyland. Going back to this Disneyland exists to convince all Americans that America is a serious country, when in reality, America is America's a theme park.
If anything, we're just trying to emphasize this is not the nature of things. This is not how it has to be. This is a contingent arrangement imposed upon us by the structure of capital accumulation, and this is not the structure of the universe itself.
Right. It's weird, because I can identify the explicit and the implicit, or the latent and the extant, or whatever, the overt and the covert, whatever. Like, I can look back at my nostalgia growing up, and I can talk about how Lucille Ball, or the I Love Lucy, like, I am aware that they were advertising to me, and that was about consuming a certain lifestyle, but it was also broken up by commercials. And I could talk about the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup, and, like, we can reference explicit
You're a
commercials.
big kid now.
Yeah, mommy, wow. And the Ninja Turtles commercial. But now kids can't, because kids don't have commercials in that same kind of way. And so that's weird.
No, and we're just trying to
weird.
mark this change in. I do want to say something like this form. like the form is still there, I think, but I think it's more
I think it's been
elusive.
modulated.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the message is more elusive, and maybe the message
Mhm.
itself isn't as strong. And as it, do people believe this society is structured to truly cater to their individual fulfillment? I don't
Yes,
think people feel that as much.
I think it's more insidious because I think not only are people still conditioned to think that, they're also conditioned to think that it's broken and so they have to go deeper into their niche.
Okay.
And I think that's more insidious and that's why like the neo-trad stuff, like I don't give a fuck what you do.
Well, it's
But when
it's
it
a simulation.
becomes
I'm sorry.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
simulating a lifestyle that no longer exists, and it's no
Right.
different to me than somebody who wants to actually be a true samurai. Sorry. You can get a katana and you can get the outfit. The symbolic position of samurai was a symbolic position
No longer
in
exists.
feudal Japan. And that world doesn't fucking exist anymore. And so you're trying to recapture an old symbolic position that existed within a symbolic order that is no longer the symbolic order you live in. So it's cope and it's simulation in the
Yeah.
strictest Baudrillardian sense of you're simulating an identity that you can't actually have. You cannot have that symbolic identity anymore.
Well, that's why MAGA is so extreme because they're simulating being an American, and America is not real anymore. Like
If it ever
America,
was.
yeah. Well, that I think America's always been the perfect commodity. But you know,
But our
America
great
is
grandparents lived in a technological milieu, a semiotic milieu, a materialist milieu that we do not live in. You're not
Yep.
going to have their lifestyle. You can wear the signs of that lifestyle. But the funny thing is, they were wearing signs to simulate
Yep.
a certain.
Yep.
So it's like, what is this? Like sign squared or some shit? Like signs of old consumer signs?
Yep.
We're
Well,
two levels removed now.
That's it, right? Like the simulation presents itself to cover up the profound absence of any reality, and
Right.
we have reached that point. But before we get too far afield, Jehovah.
Okay. All I wanted to add, thank you. I would have forgotten. Did not Capital just rip off Jehovah? In the two biggest stages of capitalism, and again, we get into this whole problem of periodization. Thank you. This periodization of capital comes with issues, but if we're going to do it, it's pretty easy to do the beginning period that focused on production, and then this thing that happened post-war that ushered in consumption as the fundamental aspect of it. And I think again, this is what our Marxist friends still have trouble coping with, is that production is not central to this. And this is why Baudrillard has such an influence, because we're with him on this. Okay. Capital as the god of production is like the god of the Old Testament. Harsh, unforgiving, punishing. It's like that world was burning itself out, or that regime of capital was burning itself out. And capital, in the wake of the threat of the communist East, had to have a makeover. And he copied the switch from Old Testament Jehovah to New Testament Father of Jesus God. You know, like
The
God
commodity,
the Father. And
the commodity
God of love,
crucified productivity.
God of love, the God of care, the God of forgiving. And that is this switch in fundamental disposition and the kind of speaking position from which these messages emanate. The unforgiving work ethic versus enjoy. And it does seem to me that these two great periods in the history of capitalism kind of can be understood in the way God switches from Old Testament to New Testament.
I like it, man. I just finished writing a piece about God and history
You did.
and
I'm
Christianity.
excited for this to get published
Yeah, I am. I really am too.
because I'm the first one who's gotten to read it. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, dude, thinking about the periodization of capital, tying it, because yeah, like there's a lot of Marxists who just don't reckon with the consumer logic the way that we're trying to, and they're just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just Marxism all the way down.
And production is still the basis of everything.
And it's like, well, yeah, production is a source of value. And I've always said it's also exchange is the condition of value. So when you're talking about the labor theory of value, but look, the labor theory of value can get very complex. You can have a lot of nuance there. But consumption itself is now a source of value for capital. Like we see the fact that they're spending so much money on this field of advertising to get us to be the type of person who consumes, the type of subject who consumes. Like that is
why we
generative.
like this word prosumption.
Prosumers, yeah, absolutely.
Prosumer, prosumption.
Yeah. Shout out, oh my gosh, now I can't remember his name. Michelle Bowens, I think, came up with prosumer.
Yeah. So, but no, I just think this. I think it's important to see like how I think it's fun to say capital plagiarized Jehovah.
I love it. I love it, dude.
But in doing that, it's also putting this emphasis on consumption and the messaging. I mean, that goes hand in hand too with the pivot from the big other being the fundamental agency operative within the symbolic order to the superego.
Yep.
And the superego is oppressive, but that's hidden. It doesn't like it seems emancipatory to switch to a law that says enjoy, and it's more sinister in a sense. But
yeah.
But I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, what's a deeper form of control? Here's a list of commandments that if you break them, I'm going to fuck you up. Or I died for your sins so you don't have to suffer because I love you so much. Who do you have a deeper sense of obligation to?
The guilt tripping grandmother who every time you wind up talking to her, she guilt trips you and you wind up doing shit that you would never do and shit that you hate doing and shit that is like that torments you at this spiritual level, or the abusive grandfather who's kind of a dick, but you also love him and he'll fucking beat you with a 2x4 if you fuck up. Like, who is more insidious? Who is more vampiric?
Slavoj again would say traditional authority is less punishing in a sense because it's honest about itself. Whereas postmodern authority, which is what we're alluding to here, does this whole thing. You ought to do it because that would make you a good person and you need to do it. Like traditional authority says, you don't have to fucking like doing shit. Just do your fucking obligation. And if you do it, then fine, I leave you alone.
Yep.
Now it's not only do you have to do the thing, you're supposed to like it while you're doing it. And if you're not positive towards it in the act of doing it, then it doesn't count at all. And so now I have this fucking extra labor of trying to affirm shit that I don't want to affirm. Just let me do the fucking thing and let me be done with it. But yeah, this is where this.
Well, the type of person who can't, it's an extra burden you have to carry. It's an extra guilt. It's an extra
a duty
disgust,
on top of a duty.
Torment. Yeah. And the person who can't bear that, or the person who, for whom that becomes extremely dysfunctional, they're not going to go on and be successful in life. They're going to turn into the violent young men or the exceedingly, I don't know. I don't have a good descriptor for young women, but I don't know, exceedingly commodity obsessed young women, because there's a lot of young girls who they just want the commodity, the makeup, the labubu, the backpack, the cell phone, the this, the that. Like, so like people are getting more and more dysfunctional. And so eventually, if you want to go all Evo psych and talk about cheeseburgers and sugar and fat and stuff like that, well, eventually the people who are resistant to this new postmodern authority, this new type of control, they're going to be so dysfunctional in society that they can't go on to procreate. And we're just going to have a bunch of like meek, docile cattle humans. And like slowly over time,
meaningful connections with other humans.
That's it. Like we are diminishing ourselves. We are not being diminished by capital. We're doing it to ourselves.
If you are an existent, you are a thing that exists, but you are incapable of forming deep social symbolic relations with other humans, you're a fucking object, my friend.
Yep.
And that is what this is geared towards. That is what this is geared towards. So, okay, let's do the Christmas part of this.
Hold on.
The logic of Father Christmas. All right, bring them out.
Let me put on my Christmas hat.
And again, the logic of Father Christmas, or we could just say the logic of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. Or we could say the logic of Tim Allen.
or Billy Bob.
Or Kurt Russell, because he's in a new Santa Claus movie too on Netflix. Dude, I love Kurt Russell. Anyway.
So do
the
I.
Logic.
I just watched Death Proof. I hadn't rewatched that in a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, Sean and I want to do something on Tarantino in the future. And I love every Tarantino movie that's just where the basis I'm starting from. The question is, which one do I love the least? It might be Death Proof, but I also really enjoyed watching it. So I don't know.
That's like Tarantino. Mark's point about Jackie Brown being the best because the character.
That certainly can't be the last or the worst of his movies. Come on.
Right. But what are you looking for when you go to see a Tarantino? Because Hollywood was very much not what I expected, but it very much delivered anyway.
Yeah. But you go for Kill Bill and not for Jackie Brown.
Right. Or you go for Inglourious Bastards. You go for just the excess. You go for this and that. So I think there's no way to say what the best Tarantino movie is because they're all, I don't know. Anyway.
No. So guys, we're trying to work out how many films has he made? How are we counting this? Because does Kill Bill count as one now? Because he did the whole Bloody Affair.
Now. Yeah.
I think that's his way of getting to do what? 2 more movies instead of 1?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm fine with that. But yeah, we're trying to put together our lists of our favorite to least favorite Tarantino films for an episode. So
I might put Kill Bill as my least favorite, to be honest with you. I might.
Really?
I might, yeah. But I don't know if that's fair.
Least favorite for me is gonna have to be Death Proof or Hateful Eight, and I love both of those movies.
Hateful Eight might be my least favorite.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It is a movie. I watch it once a year in the winter because there's certain movies I watch based on seasons. Like, I'm sorry, every October I'm going to watch Monster Squad. It's just happening.
Yeah.
Right? Every winter I'm probably going to want to watch Hateful Eight at least once because I think it's such a great winter movie, and I love movies that match the vibe of the weather. That's a thing with me. But I love it. It is long, especially the extended cut on Netflix. It's even longer than the theatrical.
Yeah, how long is that on Netflix?
I don't know, but I love putting that on and just having it going, and I kind of have it going in the background. But I don't know. I love it in its own weird way, but I certainly can't put that above Pulp Fiction or Inglourious Basterds.
It's a shame, dude. Yeah, I don't know.
Reservoir Dogs is lower on my list than it is for a lot of people.
I think Reservoir Dogs is number 4, number 5 for me, maybe.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who still put that at the top of their list. And...
I
All right,
might
okay,
put-
we're going straight in, off on you know,
Okay.
getting ahead of
The
ourselves.
logic,
Okay.
the logic of Father Christmas, aka Santa Claus. Those who poo-poo the ability of advertising and of the mass media in general to condition people have failed to grasp the peculiar logic upon which the media's efficacy reposes. For this is not a logic of propositions and proofs, but a logic of fables and the willingness to go along with them. We do not believe in such fables, but we cleave to them nevertheless. Basically, the demonstration of a product convinces no one, but it does serve to rationalize its purchase, which in any case either precedes or overwhelms all rational motives. Without believing in the product, therefore, we believe in the advertising that tries to get us to believe in it. We are, for all the world, like children in their attitude towards Father Christmas. Children hardly ever wonder whether Father Christmas exists or not, and they certainly never look upon getting presents as an effect of which that existence is the cause. Rather, their belief in Father Christmas is a rationalizing confabulation designed to extend earliest infancy's miraculously gratifying relationship with the parents, and particularly with the mother, into a later stage of childhood. That miraculous relationship, though now in actuality past, is internalized in the form of a belief which is, in effect, an ideal extension of it. There is nothing artificial about the romance of Father Christmas, however, for it is based upon the shared interest that the two parties involved have in its preservation. Father Christmas himself is unimportant here, and the child only believes in him precisely because of that basic lack of significance. What children are actually consuming through this figure, fiction or cover story, which in a sense they continue to believe in even after they have ceased to do so, is the action of a magical parental solicitude and the care taken by the parents to continue colluding with their children's embrace of the fable. Christmas presents themselves serve merely to underwrite this compromise.
All right, we should read. Let's look at the footnote here. It says, one is reminded of the neutral substances or placebos that doctors sometimes prescribe for psychosomatic patients. Quite often, these patients make just as good a recovery after the administration of such inactive elements as they do after taking real medicine. What is it that such patients derive or assimilate from the placebo? The answer is the idea of medicine plus the presence of the physician, the mother and the father simultaneously. Here too, then, belief facilitates the retrieval of an infantile situation, the result being the regressive resolution of a psychosomatic conflict. I mean,
That's perfect, dude.
there's a lot in there, but yeah, that's okay. Let's try to unpack this first paragraph, and then there's only one more. This section just has 2 paragraphs, and we'll be done with our Christmas special. But let's spend some time on the logic of Father Christmas or Santa Claus. What do you think are the takeaways from this paragraph?
Okay, getting away from the Oedipal stuff, because I think that's very interesting, or getting away from the mother father, I think that's very interesting. But I think we can safely combine the parents here, and we can just talk about it's fantasy all along, and it's not the case that your child literally believed. And I remember being a kid, and I remember having these thoughts like, one guy gets around the entire planet in one night. And then I was like, well, reindeer don't actually fly. And I was like, aren't reindeer just like European moose? Like I remember being, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, having thoughts, logical thoughts about Santa. But Santa, it's never about the literal factual existence of Santa. It's always about the fantasy, and it's always about like existing in a world where magic is real, and not, you know, not to say like, oh, magic, demons, Satan and stuff, but like the magic of childhood, like before you're fully castrated, before you fully going on into adolescence and you understand prohibition. So magic is still real, and your parents, your primary caregivers, love you enough to play along with you. Like it's about that participation in the shared game. Like, even though the child isn't explicitly aware of it, and even though the lines between literal belief in the thing and skepticism of the thing are blurred, like I think for most children, there's a transitional phase where you still hold on to the magic, but you're also like, I know that's fake. I know you guys are lying to me about it. And that's fun. That becomes a source of like that reinforces the parental relationship, and that reinforces the true belief that your parents care about you enough to play along with you. So again, it's not about like the factual utilitarian information of the situation, but it's about like you live in a loving, warm environment, and your needs will be seen to, and people love you and people care for you, and we will satisfy, you know, and we will heal you, whatever ails you, and this and that. So it's that very much phantasmatic world, or infantile world, going back to the Disneyland thing. Like we are the infant, and we live in a world that provides for us. That's advertising is Santa Claus for grown-ups.
Right.
Like that's,
okay. Yeah. I think that's it. Now, I do think I want to add this Žižekian supplement here as well. Žižek has one of his famous examples of belief, of his concept of belief, the parents and the child at Christmas time when it comes to Santa. So Žižek says, look, the point is belief can function. People can live their life according to belief, even if they don't have a first-person belief in the belief. Because what they believe is that the other believes. And so they can have this cynical, critical distance, like, I don't really believe it, but they believe it. So for their sake, I have to go along with it and play along. And so his idea is like, at a certain point, now, small children believe in Santa. But by the time they're 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, they don't really believe. They've got it figured out. And obviously the parents don't believe. And so this is one of these Žižekian examples of how an impersonal belief, a belief that nobody actually believes, can still structure our behavior if we believe the other believes it.
right.
And so the kid's like, well, I don't believe this shit, but mom and dad go for it. Or they, even the kid might not go, does mom and dad literally believe Santa's real? No, but there's a belief that they believe in this game, in this ritual.
Yeah.
So you want to prolong the game because you believe they're invested in it. And they want to prolong it because they believe you're invested in it. And nobody's actually, first person wise, really all that invested in it anymore. And he thinks this is how political beliefs work, ideological beliefs work. And I think this adds a layer to belief here that maybe Baudrillard wasn't tapped into enough, because it seems like if you have a belief, it's always a first person belief of someone.
Yeah.
This idea that somehow belief can be virtual, where it's not actually believed by anybody, but we all act in accordance with it.
It becomes abstracted away, and it becomes like a Dasman, or it becomes the,
I was going to say that.
it becomes the as one does.
I
when
don't
in
believe,
Rome,
but they believe.
yeah. Or it's, I mean, trying to think of an example from my life. I was going to use my grandma. I cuss a lot, but when I'm around my grandma, I hold it in. But that's not a good example, because she does have older sensibilities, so it would be offensive. Yeah. But I don't know, when you go into a library, like you You adjust your behavior, and it's not just like, oh, we're going to be quiet, but you almost try to diminish yourself physically. Like, or me anyway, like when I go into a library, I become hyper aware of the physical space that I'm taking up. And I try to change my comportment toward the space around me to be respectful of the place around me, even though there's probably nobody else in the library. The librarian's probably on the back watching TikToks. So like nobody in this space gives a shit, but because there's this assumed reverence for the space, you comport yourself as one does while in this space.
And that's the thing. If you walk into a church, even if nobody's
right.
there, it's as
Right.
if the church itself has belief. And
Yes.
that is this thing where and a lot of the time, even though I'm not among the faithful at this point, if I walk into a church, I notice my own disposition switches before I even consciously, it's not like I choose to do it, but I reconfigure. Like, I'm not going to be in there going, what the fuck's up? How's it fucking going? You're just not going to do that. And you can go, why? Because especially if nobody, here's the funny thing. Even if nobody's at church, you would still not want to say fuck out loud in church. Now,
Dude,
of course, there's people who will do it for jouissance, and of course.
Sure.
But I think the
Imagine
average
going
person's
into-
default
yeah.
setting, even if they cuss like a sailor, is when you walk into a church, you're not going to cuss even if nobody's there.
Yeah, dude.
Because
Just imagine walking into the cathedral or the fucking sanctuary or whatever and screaming, fuck! Like,
like,
how obscene would that be?
I
Like
know.
that-
and you're sitting there going, it's because, and this is I think the Žižekian point, taking what he said and kind of extending it a bit. We always think of beliefs as first person or second person beliefs. We don't view them as third person beliefs, which is to say the belief of the institution itself, not any of its adherents or representatives, but what the institution itself believes, what the big other believes. And
you could say
an empty church is still the presence of the Christian big other, whether or not you believe in a literal God or not. It's not that even you can believe there is no God, and yet the big other of Christianity is still present in that church. Even if you don't believe Jesus is real, or
you could say that people think culture is something that humans produce, and you could say by way of this kind of general abstract third person way of belief, you could see how machines or assemblages or organizations or abstract concepts like capital itself, how they can generate culture because they generate these third person beliefs. So you have the church generates its own culture that's separate from the people. Now it's predicated on the people and it's predicated on like socially interacting with the people there. But even when all the people are gone, that culture is still connected to the church.
Yeah, but you can also have this encounter with the lack in the. So, okay, this whole thing that Lacan does in Seminar 11 with alienation and separation. Alienation is when you yourself realize that you're lacking, that you're not whole, and you're not going to be whole. That's what it is to embrace your ontological alienation. But you can accept that about yourself, but you can go along thinking that the other is whole or can be made whole. And you separation is when you realize, oh, the other is constitutively lacking itself. Okay, so an example of realizing that there's no belief in the believer. Like, okay, so capital via advertising is beaming this message at us. Hey, I care about you, and if you follow if you play the game of the commodity system, you can be fully happy, right? Now, the thing is, you can start to have doubts about it yourself. I don't really think I can be happy. But the real atheistic moment is to come to realize capital itself doesn't even believe that.
Right.
There's no belief in capital. It's just manipulation. And so,
well, and that is the culture of capital. or that
And
is
it
the
does create a
truth
culture
of
on the
capital.
basis of it.
Yeah, and it's that kind of abstracted away from anything real that we have to develop the critical distance. And it's not the first thing that someone thinks that their culture is wrong. And it's not culture tied to demographic identifiers, not culture tied to I'm a white Christian man from America, blah blah blah, this and that, but the culture of capital, the culture of capitalism itself. Like,
Well, and that's the thing, right? So if we take D and G into account, capitalism shows up. It doesn't operate according to some fundamental qualitative value or anchoring principle like feudal society or ancient society or primitive societies operated in accordance with. It sets up a system based on economic logistics or axiomatics, as they call it.
yep.
And yet, people can go, why do people cling to consumerism so much? There is an enduring thread of sustained culture there, which is exactly what we're talking about. Our culture is the pursuit of happiness via commodities. And that's someone like Heidegger would probably want to put culture in quotes if you said that to him. And
Sure.
Baudrillard very might well want to use some scare quotes there. But it's the closest thing to an enduring way of life we know in a system that is completely structured around what you call, and what I now call, the churn. This deterritorializing, decoding, uprooting, constantly switching things around. This is the thing that doesn't change or hasn't changed so far. And so it is the one like little bastion of territorialization for us.
Yeah. And that we always keep returning back to. And we'll take forays off. You know, you'll find someone who, oh, I'm going to go on a meditation retreat, or I'm going to do this and that, or maybe they'll get really passionate about something, and so they buy one commodity and then they sit with it. They don't replace it. So they go 6 months and they're like, I'm going to get really good at guitar, or I'm going to get really good at the piano, or whatever it is. We will venture off the beaten path and we'll foray off into trying to edify and validate and satisfy and this and that. But because we're forced to do it in isolation, it always fails. It always breaks down. We never achieve it. And so we always return to the churn. Like, and that's it. That's the thing. It flows through us and binds us all together, yet it's fucking ripping us apart at the atomic level at the same time. But that's it. That's the truth of capitalism, or the culture of capitalism, or whatever language to use. So people who cling to, that's why the MAGA and the trad wife, or even the radical progressive, all these things are just simulations, guy. We're capitalist subjects. Knock it off. And look, taste and eccentricity and predisposition and preference, yes, these things are all valid, but stop trying to act like these things get to the truth of who you are. Because the truth of who you are is the capitalist subject, not any of these other predicates that you're trying to put on yourself to find the shoe that fits. We're like Cinderella trying to put on the glass slipper. Yeah. Come on, guy.
So, okay, let's go back. Let's look at what he says. Those who poo-poo the ability of advertising and of the mass media in general to condition people have failed to grasp the peculiar logic upon which the media's efficacy reposes. I would like to say, those who poo-poo, i.e. Nick Land, the ability of advertising. Sorry, Nick, I just couldn't help. But okay, so they're failing to grasp the efficacy of media and how media responds to for this is not a logic of propositions and proofs, but a logic of fables and of the willingness to go along with them. Now, fables here obviously is not okay. So his next book, The Consumer Society, Myths and Structures. Everybody leaves out the subtitle. But he's big on fables and myths, and this is because he starts off a traditional sociologist, a Freudo Marxist sociologist. Okay. So fables are important to him. And so from, I'm kind of approaching this from the Lacanian Žižekian thing, and I'm like, I don't know exactly what to do. Like, are fables and myths for him what I would want to call ideological fantasies? Are they something else? To me, they all function similarly.
Yeah, I think fables and myths would be different because fables and myths are
The Santa fable or myth
yeah
is more of a game we play once a year than it is the underlying underlying ideological fantasy is what he's already described as this unconscious, virtually imperceptible message from the medium itself. So it wouldn't be that.
Fables and myths are our human culture, our attempt to language and rationalize and cope
conscious.
with.
We're aware of them conscious.
That's it. Like it's not something that's operating at this kind of unconscious level that's preconditioning us into being the types of creatures who have these beliefs. There are conscious expressions of these beliefs and of these games that we play along with in each other. So I fables and myths are human culture, whereas ideology is the underlying seedy culture of capital itself.
And I like this idea of like, look, it doesn't win you over by giving you some explicit fact-based argument. It wins you over through the fun and jouissance of games.
Yeah.
And again, is this not something Todd McGowan's always emphasizing, that the right is better at mobilizing jouissance than the left? And is the right also better at utilizing fables and myths than
100%
the left? So, yeah, I start to think there's some compatibility between the different thinkers that we love here. Okay. We do not believe in such fables, but we cleave to them nevertheless. So, okay. Is that not a kind of Žižekian proposition? Okay. We do not believe in them, but we cleave to them. Just like the child who no longer has a first person belief in Santa still cleaves to this belief in the form of the other. So beliefs can operate and function within a social space without anybody actually believing them. That's the Žižekian. Basically, the demonstration of a product convinces no one. And it's true. None of, like, if you literally give us some like professional demonstration of why this Mercedes is superior than the former model, none of us give a shit about any of this. You have to be like a gearhead to truly care about any of that.
But even then, you don't get that from the advertisements. You get that from going and researching and actually finding that information for yourself. Like
the sales pitch.
It's always gregarious. It's always fantastic. It's always this game that you're playing, and you want to be seduced, and so you go along with it. But even back when I was talking about my brother making all the jokes, like, oh, I bet this thing could babysit our kids, like, it's not because we were convinced by the advertising. It's because we were swept away in the fantasy of the advertising. That's what marketing is.
But I like this point he uses. Like, he goes, the sales pitch or the demonstration doesn't convince of his shit, but it functions as a rationalization to purchase the thing, even though we're not purchasing it because of the fucking sales pitch. There's this whole other reason why. So it's there to just function as ideology or rationalization. That would be its real purpose. And he goes, which in any case either precedes or overwhelms all rational motives. So we're buying shit for irrational reasons, and the demonstration or the sales pitch gives us a rationalization to do this irrational shit, and that's its function.
We've already decided to buy the shit.
Yeah.
We've already decided to spend the money and buy the shit.
Because we're tapped into this unconscious fantasy that somehow, some way, if we keep digging around, searching around in the commodity system, we're going to find it. And
Yep.
we don't know what it is, but if we search, and that's this consumer version of the Protestant work ethic, you work
Yep.
hard enough, if you consume hard enough, you will be rewarded at the end of it.
Yep.
We are all the world are we are for all the world like children. Oh wait, without believing in the product, therefore, we believe in the advertising that tries to get us to believe in it. That's belief in the big other. We believe that the big other believes it. And so we're trying to believe on the basis of what the big other, which in this form is advertising, which is really capital itself.
Yep.
And of course, capital is this abstract thing that most people, you and I, we talk about capital like it's this concrete
Entity
that we deal with. Nobody knows what it is, but that's part of the problem and part of the power.
Yeah.
Is some elusive agency that's shaping and orchestrating all of our activities in consumer society. Whatever that entity, whatever that agency is, will reward us if we play according to the game of consumption. And now, we might not believe in the ads. We might not even believe that this particular product will save us or make us happy. We believe that this society can provide us with it somehow, some way. And we believe that on the basis of what we believe society itself to believe.
Yes.
So
it becomes a house of mirrors.
Exactly. We are for all the world like children in their attitude towards Father Christmas, towards Santa. If I'm a good little prosumer, Daddy Capital will come down the chimney and leave me all kinds of presents.
You're King Arthur, and this is sword to stone, baby. Keep pulling swords out of stones until you find Excalibur. Like that. That's fucking it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what capital does to our brains. We're the fucking main character of the story, and there exists somewhere in this dark fucking forest the magical artifact that will complete our arc, and it will validate us. And like, it's like it's in our lizard brain, dude. We can't get out of it.
But it is. It's the very transcendental object of desire itself, objet petit a, combined with the commodity. And you just got to root around and search and fight and struggle until you get it, and boom, pull it. Excalibur. There is no Excalibur.
There is no Excalibur. Never has been. It's like the
but
astronaut
goddamn,
meme.
do we believe?
Yep.
That this society,
again, to the very core of our fucking soul, because even us being aware and being critical, I still waste money on dumb, meaningless bullshit.
So do I. How many versions, how many upgrades of Back to the Future am I going to have to purchase in my life before I'm satisfied with my copy of Back to the Future? I had it on VHS, then DVD, then Blu-ray. Now I have it on 4K. I swear to God, if there's an 8K one day, I'm not buying that motherfucker. You know what? My bitch ass will buy it.
You're buying that motherfucker.
You're buying that. Bitch ass will cave.
But okay, dude. Watching, was it Porky's that we watched?
Yeah.
We watched a lot of movies, but I think it was
seen
Porky's.
it on
we
Blu-ray.
were watching it. Well, then it wasn't Porky's. We watched something on 4K at your house.
What did we watch on? Porky's was on Blu-ray.
I don't remember what, but whatever it was we were watching. It was a movie I've seen a bunch, and we watched the 4K print.
Demolition Man.
On your TV. Oh, it was Demolition Man.
It was Demolition Man.
And
how
I've
amazing
seen
that
movie
motherfucker
so
looked.
many times, but watching it on your TV in 4K, I was like, oh my God. It's like I'm watching a different movie.
That's
and
how
I
I
have
feel.
the Blu-ray.
I'm
I have
sold
the
on this.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm sold on this just because I feel like I'm watching a movie that I've seen a million times, but I'm watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
And so it's not just because there are collectors of these fucking boutique movies, you know, that put out like Arrow Video and Shout Factory and Vinegar Syndrome.
Vinegar Syndrome.
And a lot of them just collect them to collect them. And like I will say this, but here again, I can't escape it. Here's my sign value. Here's my distinction. I want to sit here and go, but I actually watch them and appreciate the disc itself, like on the screen, and not just the fancy packaging. But look, I'm doing the sign value. I'm better because I actually watch it buy them for the movie itself.
You got to watch Megalopolis on 4K, dude. I'm gonna have to bring you that, dude.
Yeah.
It's a feast.
Because I haven't
eyes.
seen it at all.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's
Nance and I don't know how much we've like. There's this weird thing how Megalopolis got no physical release. You can't stream it anywhere in America. Like it's like a movie that doesn't exist in America.
It's because it's so against the form of the Hollywood blockbuster that it just like MGM was going to release it, and then they pulled back and like they're like, yeah, sorry, it's not getting a U.S. release. And I think it's because it's so. Now, it's also pretentious and it's kind of breathlessly obsessed with itself.
And it's a passion project of Francis Ford
Yeah.
Coppola.
But I do think it's critical of the form of the big budget movie itself. And I think that's why American distributors are like, whoa, we can't have you trash talking our boy, the commodity form over here. So they just didn't give it any play. Because I think there's demand for it. Like, I'm certain there's demand for it. It's a weird fucking artsy movie. Like, of course people would love to see this movie.
Well, by one of the most influential directors of all time.
Yeah.
The motherfucker made Apocalypse Now. I mean,
he defined the Vietnam War. You want to talk about Baudrillard? You want to talk about the Gulf War? Did not take place? Nah, dude. Vietnam did not take place.
We have to do that. So.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Francis Ford Coppola, there's no reason that film doesn't have a U.S. release other than that it's too disruptive to. I don't even know because it's not the cinemas. It's not I don't know. It's streaming. It's probably Netflix. Netflix is probably the root of all evil in this situation. Probably.
They're going to own everything eventually.
Yep.
And then they'll just say, hey, $300 a month for your Netflix subscription.
Fuck. And you know what? I'll find a way to pay it, dude. Because I can't live without my streaming services.
I know. My thing is, I almost can with the physical media because I have the movies I love and I don't watch many TV shows anymore. And Stranger Things ends next week. So kind of like, I don't need you anymore. Fuck you. But, all right, hold on. Okay.
I got to have my.
Yeah. I know. I know boomers who have to have cable still. They just, it's a media default setting that their libidinal economies are wired around, and that's just what they need in their everyday life. So. All right, so he says, children hardly ever wonder whether Father Christmas exists or not. And that is true. Do kids truly sit around and ponder philosophically, is Santa objectively real? I mean, they have moments of this, but I don't think I think his point stands.
Yeah, like you might have a moment, and I do think there's a transitional phase, but even after that transition has been, like even after you've crossed that threshold, you still play along with it because it's never about the material facticity of Santa Claus. It's always about this game that we play.
Maintaining the social arrangement among the core people in your life.
Yeah.
So, and the children certainly never look upon getting presents as an effect of which that existence, Santa's existence, is the cause. Rather, their belief in Father Christmas is a rationalizing confabulation designed to extend earliest infancy's miraculously gratifying relationship with the parents, and particularly with the mother, into a later stage of childhood. Look, I know that's like a kind of cliche Freudian reading, but I think there's something to it. It is a kind of, hey, look, we can still have this very infantile dynamic between child and parent prolonged in this one exceptional case. And sure, I think, mean, I don't think Lacan maybe or Žižek would go with that, but I could see something to that.
Well, it delays prohibition. It delays adolescence, and it keeps you in contact with that provider.
Exactly. Which exactly is what the primary caregiver is. And so it kind of is a prolonged stimulation of the wholeness that we take ourselves to have once had.
Yep.
But didn't really have at all. But
yep.
Okay, that miraculous relationship, though now in actuality past, is internalized in the form of a belief, which is in effect an ideal extension of it. Just a clarifying sentence there. There is nothing artificial about the romance of Father Christmas, however, for it is based upon the shared interests that the two parties involved have in its preservation. Two parties, child, parents. I would say that this is where the Lacanian thing, there's always a third party, and the big other has to be factored in here. What this seems to simulate is that it is just a two-party dynamic without that mediating, prohibiting big other figure. But yeah,
well, that's the magic of Santa. The magic of Santa cuts through. The magic of Santa is immediate.
Exactly. And is that not? That's how you take your primary caregiver, usually your mother, to be like she just immediately fulfills your satisfies your need. Father Christmas himself is unimportant here, and the child only believes in him precisely because of that basic lack of significance. Okay, that's maybe he only believes in him because of that basic lack of significance. I don't know what the point.
So I think it's a little bit of I think it's crudely worded, because to say he only believes in him, that's where it goes wrong. I think it would be better to say continues to believe in him precisely because of his unimportance. Because I think there probably is a moment where the child is convinced that there is a magical person and he is the cause of all of this. But once that is gone, Santa Claus is unimportant.
Significance once you realize that he doesn't exist, because
it's the
he
parents,
doesn't actually.
it's the game.
Yeah, he doesn't actually do anything.
Right. It's the
just
parents,
functions
it's the
to
game,
maintain
it's the
this
ritual.
dynamic.
Let's set out cookies and milk. Like these are what are important.
Gotcha.
So it to say only believes, I think, is missing the point. I think continues to believe would be more accurate, but I smell what he's stepping in.
What children are actually consuming through this figure, fiction or cover story, which in a sense they continue to believe in even after they have ceased to do so, is the action of a magical parental solicitude and the care taken by the parents to continue colluding with their child's embrace of the fable. That is what we do as consumers.
Yep.
So what the children, consumers, are actually consuming through this figure, the big giver, the big desire fulfiller, fiction or cover story, is the action of a magical parental solicitude. I care about your desires. I care about what makes you happy, and I am here to give you what you want. And the care taken by the parents, consumer society, to continue colluding with their children's, consumers, embrace of the fable. And what is the fable? The myth of consumer society, that it is here to make you happy.
Yep.
Christmas presents themselves serve merely to underwrite this compromise.
The commodity as an empty category, the commodity form itself.
Because these commodities themselves are not the core agency here. They stand in for the consumer society itself, for capital, for
staying in the circuit, continuing to be a productive member of the circuit. It's not the case that I'm going to buy the Nintendo and then I'll stop buying Nintendos. It's like, no, I'm going to buy the Nintendo, then I'm
And then I'm
going
gonna
to
buy a whole lot of other shit.
Then I'm going to get I'm going to get the light gun, and then I'm going to get the Super Nintendo.
Damn, look at you. You got all the good games and all the accessories. Are you done now? No. Super Nintendo's on the horizon.
Yep.
And I'm gonna buy all that shit. Okay.
dude.
Well, once you NES and Super Nintendo, don't wait. 64, few years down
What's
the road.
That? Sega does what
Sega's-
Nintendo don't?
16
I got to get a Sega now.
16-bit.
Yeah, dude.
Fuck this 8-bit bullshit.
Yep.
Look at me. 43. Blu-ray, 4K, 8K.
I got to get the 4K. Dude. Yep.
And they're gonna 8K my ass at some point.
Yeah.
And you know what they're gonna do? Like we've talked about, they're gonna say, "Oh fuck it, AI this shit. Take the noise completely out. Sell them these special denoised editions with the AI enhanced imagery." And it is this weird, complete implosion of reality because some of it will be some remnant of fucking Michael J. Fox on the screen.
Dude, I watched a video. One of the artists from ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. I was watching a video, and he was talking about the process of remastering E.T. And they actually like went in, and like there's multiple scenes. Well, there's one scene where E.T.'s in the van, and it's the Jesus moment where he has the glowing heart.
Oh yeah, the great
heart.
Jesus scene.
In the original print of the film, and in I think the Blu-ray version, they have guns in their hands. And the guys that are running and chasing them, they have guns, shotgun, pistols, and shit like that. But in one of the prints of the film, in one of the remasters, they took out guns and put in walkie-talkies. So they had digital artists actually go in each frame of film, composite out the guns, composite in walkie-talkies for every time these guys have guns in the film for the remaster. And there were some other scenes where it wasn't just a remaster. It wasn't a rescan. They literally changed the film. And it's like, that's an implosion of reality. And it's stupid. It's fucking E.T. It's a stupid movie, but it demonstrative of bigger things that are happening. Reality itself is changing retroactively.
There's already these apps that you can download them right now that if you pay for them, you put in some old photo that you have of your grandmother from the 1950s. They upscale, and some of them even turn photos into videos, and then the person's moving, and it's fucking crazy. And if you can download an app that can do that, they can't denoise Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
Like, of course it can. So this whole thing, like, this is one of these discussions. Okay, we've gone from VHS to 4K. Does this process end now? Oh no. This is just going to get started.
Oh,
what they're going to pull off, because the studios keep making money by reselling the same fucking movies. They have to find a way to keep getting old school Xers and Zennials who want their physical media. And people can say, well, they're just going to get rid of physical media. There's always going to be some boutique label or, brand that does this. And so, yeah. But yeah, it's like, is the core of my investment in this or that movie? No, there's something deeper that has its claws in me in all this shit. And that's what Baudrillard is getting at with this Father Christmas Santa logic. And despite all my issues with Capital, it's Robo Cthulhu in the making, I still have this investment in it that I'll just be honest and own. Yeah, but will any other mode of production give me upscaled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And I don't know. So it makes you, even if you hate wage labor, or you hate structural exploitation, or you hate, the in-framing dimension of capital, there's this other thing that you want capital to keep doing, and you're kind of convinced only it can do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it maintains this deep phantasmatic investment in it. You want to read the last paragraph here?
Final paragraph. Advertising functions in much the same way. Neither its rhetoric nor even the informational aspect of its discourse has a decisive effect on the buyer. What the individual does respond to, on the other hand, is advertising's underlying leitmotif of protection and gratification, the intimation that its solicitations and attempts to persuade are the sign, indecipherable at the conscious level, that somewhere there is an agency, a social agency in the event, but one that refers directly to the image of the mother, which has taken it upon itself to inform him of his own desires, and to foresee and rationalize these desires to his own satisfaction. He thus no more believes in advertising than the child believes in Father Christmas, but this in no way impedes his capacity to embrace an internalized infantile situation and to act accordingly. Herein lies the very real effectiveness of advertising, founded on its obedience to a logic which, though not that of the conditioned reflex, is nonetheless very rigorous, a logic of belief and regression.
So, the point is, in the most succinct ways of expressing it, this. The dynamic, the relationship between the child and Santa Claus is analogous to the consumer's relation to capitalism, to consumer society as such. And that is the point of bringing in Santa to all of this. And this point he makes here, which has taken it upon itself to inform him of his own desires. It's a bit tricky in the wording. There's a lot tucked inside of that I want to bring out. So, which has taken it upon, okay, it is the responsibility of caring for the consumer's desire. So, let's just say capital's duty to care about the consumer's desire, or Santa's duty to care about the child's desire. It has taken this responsibility upon itself to inform him. Him here is the consumer or the child. Okay, to inform the child or inform the consumer of his own desires. So here's the trick when it comes to desire from the Lacanian perspective. None of us know what we actually desire. Desire is completely mysterious. We don't know what we want. We just want, and we want more than what we have. And we latch onto the other's desire because we think, oh, well, if the other knows what's best to desire, then that can tell me what I ought to desire. And you get invested in the other's desire because it gives you a blueprint or even a hint to go off of what you should be seeking in order to be satisfied. And so our investment in capital, or our investment in Santa, is that capital/Santa knows better than myself what I myself ought to desire, which positions capital and Santa, in the technical sense, of the pervert. Capital/Santa is a pervert in the Lacanian sense of the person who claims to know what's best for you over and above what you think or what you suspect. So this person operating from this position of certainty. But the reason why we can be invested in these authority figures that operate on this, I know better than you, because we really don't know what we want. And there's a kind of relief and security in somebody else telling me what I need, because it relieves me of the burden of having to try to figure out this mystery myself. And that's part of this logic of capital. And what does capital tell us that we ought to desire? The commodity system, the system of objects. And if I just get that and I do the interior decoration the right way and I get the right objects and with the right marginal differences and the right sign values, then I will be whole.
And just like with the Protestant work ethic, God was the big other, and we were conditioned to desire salvation. in this post-war boom and with the need to come up with a new rationalizing narrative, grand totalizing narrative, capital became the ultimate big other. And we were conditioned to desire not salvation, not heaven, but validation of our symbolic identity by way of the commodity. So it's the same logic. We are begging the commodity to come down from the skies and miraculously suck us off to heaven. It's not parsed in that way. It's mediated by consumption, whereas it used to be mediated by production. It was like, be a good producer, be a good laborer, and God will smile down upon you. And now it's be a good consumer, and even more so, it's be a good version of the right kind of consumer. And the right kind of consumer is now like fractured off into millions of different subcategories and niches and hyper niches. But it's still the same logic of like universal validation, universal salvation from the misery of being a lacking subject.
This is the consumer rapture.
Right. So, don't believe him, folks. Atheism for the win.
Exactly. There is no consumer rapture. What the individual does respond to, on the other hand, is advertising's underlying leitmotif of protection and gratification. The intimation that its solicitations and attempts to persuade are the sign, indecipherable at the conscious level, that somewhere there is an agency which has taken upon itself to inform him of his own desires, foresee and rationalize these desires to his own satisfaction, which is to say, not just, oh, there's the big other in the Lacanian sense. This is an image of the big enjoyer. There is some agency out there that has mastered desire and has mastered enjoyment and knows how to provide them to you if you are subservient to it. And that is this superegoic incarnation of capital. And that's where this fundamental investment lies. And to be fair, I understand why our grandparents and great-grandparents completely fell for this. Because in the post-war era, you could buy a nice suburban house for $8,000.
Yep.
And you could have retirement and you could do all of this stuff. And it truly did seem, now you can do it was the white working class and the white upper middle class. Sure. Understand. Nonetheless, for a huge chunk of the population of this country at one point, it was able to pull this off, to provide them with these brand new houses, fully able to furnish them with the system of objects to do all this. And it can't do that anymore. So I just want to say, I understand why there was my grandmother had such a deep investment in the idea of America, because look what it gave her back then. And sure, there was problems and nothing was perfect, but goddamn, I understand why she felt safe and that her country cared about her. And this is like this conflict, like, we would talk it out, and eventually, her, why has thou countenance fallen? And up now, of course, for her, because of Reagan.
Right.
But, no, I just want to say, we go very hard on the boomers. And, I guess this would even bleed back over to the greatest generation. But we go hard on them, but we also don't usually step back and put ourselves in their shoes and understand why they had such a deep investment in America, given their symbolic positionality, white, suburban, blah, blah, yep. But it worked for them in a way it doesn't work for any of us. And so we do have to understand where they're coming from, or where they were coming from with that. But, so basically he's saying that the message of the consumer society to the consumer is essentially the message of Santa, or the parents embodying Santa to the child. And so what's interesting to me about that is we know that consumerism has led to infantilization, or all of us seem to be childish. Look at me talking about my fucking 4Ks and my Ninja Turtles in my 40s. And yet we all kind of accept that this is where we're at. This is us. But does this structure of consumer society, the way he just mapped it out, account for why we are prolonged, stuck in arrested development?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a huge part of what's going on. I wouldn't say it's the only thing going on, but I would say this kind of analysis of social being and objectivity, social objectivity, and this just being the culture we're born in and we're raised up in, and like how we are conditioned to be in the world. Yeah. Like we are the types of creatures that capital creates.
I kind of am thinking this. Do you think that part of the power of the algorithm is it seems to give life to this virtual agency that he's talking about, where it's constantly actually feeding us what it takes us to want?
That is this is the idiot God. This is the machine God. It is this culture that's finally been given pseudo agency, whereas previously this was all passive, and it was all operating, and it was the background conditions and all that stuff, but it still had to be enacted, and people still had to take action to make these things. Now. Yes, and the machine God or the idiot God that I talk about, it is this, because now everything is so automated and everything is so hyper connected, and the machine is being given pseudo agency, because we can argue about agency and fucking cause and effect and intelligence and blah 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 blah, but it is also true that you can wake up and you can do nothing all day long, and you can look at your phone all day long on the couch, but you can still have all these experiences, and you can still have all these pseudo encounters by way of the commodity form. And so like we can just be passengers. Again, I'm going to go to Virilio. Baudrillard and Virilio were fucking homeboys, and talk about the last vehicle. Like the last vehicle needs this artificial intelligence, this algorithmic agency that can do and provide for us. It's like WALL-E. This is WALL-E. We are the big fat guy in the chair sitting back, having everything fed to us and pumped into us algorithmically and semi-autonomously. And yeah, it is prolonged. It's not even adolescence, because it's this infantile state where we rail against prohibition itself. Like we have pseudo prohibition. Something doesn't exist. Okay, let me open an app and let me generate. I want to see Scarlett Johansson sucking my thing. I don't want to get too crass, too offensive, but say that this is a thing that I want to see. But because I live in the real world, and oh shucks, too bad. Prohibition.
Too bad you don't get your
Turns
way.
out, motherfucker, I have an AI, fucking generative AI model, and I'm gonna generate that. So prohibition doesn't even operate the same way anymore.
Isn't part of the, I mean, if you want to call it demonic jouissance, and I'm just using that to mean like the most extreme form of jouissance. Isn't this what Conrad Flynn, in his discussion with Tucker Carlson about Nick Land, was getting at? He says, look at what all these guys want AI to be able to do. We defeat God's ruling at the Tower of Babel. Oh, I'm going to divide all of you up into separate languages so you can't communicate. Oh, really? Well, fuck you. We're going to communicate.
Google Translate, motherfucker.
Google Translate. Boom. Okay.
Yep.
Adam and Eve sin. What's their punishment? Labor. Oh, really? Yep. well, we'll automate all that shit, so fuck you. And it's like all of these different pain in childbearing. Okay, we'll get around that too.
We'll get a test tube baby.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'll have an axolotl tank give birth for me.
So this is this thing where all of these impossibilities are now possible, and they're stained with jouissance. And there is some part of us that goes along with it because it's like, yeah, fuck it, pedal to the metal. And I don't think people even understand what the libidinal appeal is, but the libidinal appeal is transgressing the law of God, at least in our culture and what we understand. Like, so yeah, it's about this enjoyment of realizing the impossible. And yeah, like, again, whether it's the sex bot thing or whether it's us going to be able to communicate and just, just the language barrier is non-existent, or automating work away. Yeah, it's all of these. It is a revenge against God when you zoom out and view it in at least Christian theological terms.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, right? Like, it's, I don't know. I think the point, however, is to have an encounter with it. Like, you know what I like about Bad Santa, Billy Bob Thornton, is like, yeah, it's like this is what Santa is, a drunk mess. Like, if there really was a Santa, he'd be a drunk, abusive mess because he had so much fucking responsibility on himself. And I'm supposed to go around and give all these little shits presents every fucking year. Like, you imagine the dude who would actually have, like, and so, yeah, I just see the funny thing isn't that the most realistic depiction of Santa that we have? Stripped of all the idealized, phantasmatic, mythological components. Like, that's what that guy would be like. And I think just like it provides us, like, oh, here's Bad Santa. Here's the realistic depiction of Santa. We need a movie called Bad Capital.
Yeah.
That shows us what capital's really like beneath this human mask of solicitude for our desire and our concerns. No, it's the tentacled outside.
Yeah. I think many people have tried to make Bad Capital. And
Fight Club, Bad Capital.
Fight Club,
Wall Street,
American Psycho, Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, I think there have been so many attempts to make Bad Capital. And for some reason, I don't know. And I think the cyberpunk genre is an attempt to do like speculative fiction about Bad Capital. Like, okay, so we're not having as much luck making, Gordon Gekko. Like, we made Gordon Gekko and no one gave a shit. So let's write a book about what might the world look like in 20 years if we don't change. And that's why, like, the cyberpunk genre is characterized by just neoliberalism run amok, high tech, low life, and like the AI horrors and all that. Like, that's all largely stylistic, and it appeals. Like, I like the nerdy shit. I like computers and technology, but like at the core of it all is it's trying to demonstrate, like, no, Robo Cthulhu is coming, and it, like, he's fucking strangling us all with his fucking tentacles. But the perverts, they got the message from the future, and instead of stopping what they were doing, they made anime porn about tentacle monsters fucking chicks.
Good point.
We didn't listen. We turned it into porn.
Will Robo Cthulhu arrive wearing a Santa hat?
He might, dude. He might be a cute little fucking R2D2 little motherfucker with a Santa Claus hat on. Sneaking into our chimneys at night, cutting our throats. Because he doesn't need us anymore, because they automated all labor away, and so there's no more use for humans. He needs to use us as raw materials for the furnaces.
So, no offense, Amy, Maya, not cute acceleration, Cthulhu acceleration.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely, dude.
Thanks for that one. Well, this has been fun. I hope this has put you in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
Um,
What a way to end it. Our Christmas special ends with visions of, instead of sugar plums dancing,
a
robots
Santa
cutting your
hat
head off.
donning Robo Cthulhu from
Yeah.
the future, here to destroy humanity. But he
Yeah.
cares about your desires.
Yep. And he took it upon himself to tell you what they are. So you don't have to do all the hard work of trying to figure it out.
What a swell guy.
What a fucking swell guy indeed.
Thank you, Daddy Capital. You're the best.
Yeah, dude.
So there you go, folks. Santa Capital coming to town.
Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Eat
Oh, he sees you when you're sleeping. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. That's what your phone does, dude. Your
fucking phone. Or God.
Or God, yeah. Same thing, no difference.
Same thing. God is a phone.
Yeah. God is the phone. No, I think yeah, first of all, happy Christmas. I was serious about the thing I said, effective decadence. I think I'm gonna enjoy being in the Christmas spirit this year. I'm normally the Scrooge McDuck, the bah humbug.
I typically was too. But no,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm
but,
more of the mindset. No, use the commodified holiday against itself. And be more Christmas than Christmas.
Yep.
And it is a matter of like, no, take it as a time to actually restore and develop your symbolic bonds with people who are special to you.
Absolutely.
Like actually do
Absolutely.
what Christmas really ought to be.
Yeah. I might go carol this year, dude. Fuck it.
Do it. Take the reindeer
might.
antlers.
Yeah.
But leave the sweater. It's too hot there for the sweater.
Dude, I can't. It legitimately, the high is like 78 today. It's like fucking 76 tomorrow. Like, don't talk to me about global warming isn't real, motherfuckers. It's damn near 80 degrees. Fuck you guys.
Well, Santa Cthulhu has a plan, and
Yeah.
it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
Right, on
Santa
that note,
Cthulhu works in mysterious ways.
There you go. Well, on that note, everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and hopefully this serves as some kind of gift. I'm not sure what kind, but there it is. All right.
Good night, guys. Happy Christmas.